just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar. And it's a big episode, guys. Incredible games on the weekend. A lot to talk about. But 6 p.m. tonight, Grumpy Coffee is a go. That is right. We launch at 6 o'clock tonight. grumpycoffee.com.au. We've got pods, which are the original Nespresso shape. We've got whole beans, ground coffee at grumpycoffee.com.au. Also, every single purchase, so the minimum purchase gives you one entry for you and a mate to play golf with some of the biggest names, some of the biggest stars in the NRL for Levels Golf Day, grand final week. And then if you purchase 1 kilo bag of Grumpy Coffee, that gives you 3 entries into the draw for you and a mate to play Levels Golf Day. And also, if you are outside New South Wales and you win the prize, all expenses paid, the NRL Golf Day. So that is a launch special. On top of all of that, to celebrate the launch of Grumpy Coffee, it is free shipping in Australia. And also, we ship internationally. Usually that costs $20. We're capping it at $10. So $10 shipping international around the world and free shipping in Australia. That is the launch special. And obviously the launch special is the entry into the Levels Golf Day. Guru, how was your weekend, mate?
It's good, mate. Finals footy, absolutely flying. Just quietly, what's the origin story behind Grumpy? Where did it all sort of kick off?
The origin stories. I'll take you back many a moon, Roo. Many a moon. I'll tell you where it started. So basically, a few years ago, my brother was like, would you ever consider doing a coffee? He's a big coffee man. And I was like, yeah, no. Anyway, just put it in the bit of the back of the mind. At the time, I was just like, yeah, it's just something to think about. Not really. Anyway, we were in Europe on our honeymoon, me and my wife. And since we'd met, we basically had never really been apart. We'd basically met, got together, and every single day we could spend together, we spent together. So what that means is we had our routine. You had your routine, nothing to kind of ruin that. You had your morning routine when you wake up, you have your coffee, all that stuff. And so it wasn't until 4 years into it, we went on a holiday. And when you're obviously traveling, you don't have your routine. You don't have your normal shower. You don't have your normal, mirrors, your normal coffees. Anyway, we were in Paris and we had a booking to go see Versailles, which is like, we'd been talking about this this is something that I dreamt all my whole life. And my wife was literally, I am not going anywhere until I get my coffee. So she was willing to miss something we paid for and been thinking about for years just to get a coffee. And throughout that whole trip, before she had her coffee, she was a different person. And I was like, you're actually a really grumpy person before you have your coffee. And that's genuinely when it clicked. I was like, fuck, grumpy coffee. Everyone's grumpy before they have their coffee. And so that's genuinely where the idea came from. So that's 2 years ago. That's how long this has taken to put together. Then I was like, well, obviously I don't know how to roast a coffee and I'm not going to go white label. I want to do it genuinely. And so my brother knew a guy that owned a cafe that'd been in the industry for like 20 years. His name is Mitch. He is a gun, knows how to roast coffee, unbelievable in the field. And I went to him, I said, I've got this idea for a coffee. And its name's Grumpy Coffee. Here's all the artwork. This is what I want. This is direction, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I love the idea. I'd love to come on board. And then, so he is the co-founder of it. And he, up in Sunshine Coast, has built the roastery from scratch, all the way on the ground up. It's a specialty coffee. So much so that even the beans, so it gets all checked for quality. I think it has to be over a rating of about 84. It gets all checked before it comes to us, but then he checks it again to make sure it's the highest quality. On top of all of that, his connections, we go direct to farmer wherever we can. So on PNG, for example, we get our coffee beans direct from the farmers to make sure there's no middleman that takes the money. So our money goes direct to them. We'll actually be visiting PNG, Colombia, Guatemala, Brazil. That's where all our beans are from. We'll travel all to those places to visit where we get our beans from over the next 6 to 12 months. But yeah, that is the origin stories. So when I say it's literally named after my wife, don't cancel me. But it is literally named after my wife because she was, let's just say she was a headache to deal with before her coffee.
I love the branding. I am so fucking into it. I reckon it's unreal.
Timmy, how you going, brother?
Look, I'll be honest, came in pretty shit this morning, boys. All these Cowboys and Seagulls fans out there whinging about their weekends and kicked out of the competition. As a Canberra Raiders fan, we were knocked out of the Jersey Flag and New South Wales Cup competitions on the weekend. The double banger. It doesn't get much worse than that. Got in here, started tucking into a Grumpy Coffee, and mate, I feel $1 million. I'm ready to rock.
And you may have felt the podcast running more smoothly. Just a better, the vibe, if you're listening right now and you just feel happier, It's because we've got the great Ella joining us. How you going?
Hello. I mean, I'd be better if Manly had won because I'd be here bragging, but humble in defeat.
Now, when we say Ella is literally number one Manly fan, Ella, could you please let the audience know how much you froth Manly Seagulls?
Well, my parents literally met at Brookvale Oval, so brainwashed since birth. I tell people I grew up in a cult because I didn't watch Harry Potter growing up. I haven't watched all these movies because we watched Manly Grand Final replays. So, yeah, it's been a sad weekend in the Casma household, but you know what? 2025, we're on.
Very optimistic, very optimistic. Seabold out or Seabold in? What are we talking here?
I'm Seabold in at the moment. But if we miss finals next, I hate this repetition that we have of making finals one year, missing out the next. Have to build on next season, otherwise.
Okay, there we go. Ella, massive Manly fan. Obviously, thanks, Ella, for joining us. And also with Sportsbet as well.
Yeah.
And you guys have got a podcast as well, don't you? Over at
We do.
Sportsbet?
Give me something.
Give me something. So that's Hammy. Now, if you thought the podcast was less funny, obviously Hammy isn't here with us this week. But he will be back next week. And obviously Maddie will be back next week as well. But a massive thank you to Ella for joining us. Now, let's get into it, boys. Wow. Let's face some music, shall we, from the weekend? Let's face some music from the weekend. Brought to you by our friends over at Sportsbet. A massive thank you as always. Okay, this weekend. Basically, I'll just go from top to bottom. I chose the Cows, Nanai, and Angus Crichton to score. That didn't come. And I just want to, for the record, I'm...
Here we go.
Listen, I'm not asking for the win. I'm not asking for the win. I'm just saying, remember what my first pick was. I did pick the Sharks. I'm not asking for the win. I know I changed my mind, but just remember that, the thinking version of me got it wrong, but the guy that actually gets footy, which is the internal subconscious, I got it right. I'm just throwing that out there. But anyway, I chose the Cowboys. I don't know why. I should have chosen the Sharks because I've been the one riding the Sharks all year long. Anyway, I got Chooks, so I'm on 2 points. Guru, he chose the Cows. He got Val. He didn't get Manly, and he got Olakawatu. So he literally got no points for the picks of the games, but he got the anytime try scorers.
Yeah, but I
points.
like the Sharks too.
Yeah, but you didn't pick him.
I should have got points for that.
No, you didn't pick him. You didn't actually say it publicly. Sorry, mate. Sorry about that one. Timmy, he went Sharks, which gave him 2 points. Then he went Wilton, no try. Chooks Manly. You went Chooks/Manly, which didn't get up.
Hey.
Sorry.
Half.
1 point. Sorry, 1 point. Apologies. And you went Suoli, so 3 points for you. Matty, he went Sharks. He went Nico, Manly, and Paseka, only 2 points. Hammy, the pathetic loser, this is what he went. Cows, Iro, Manly, and Kohler. And it's a bit of a running theme with Tigers and not winning things on this podcast, which we'll get to later, unfortunately. But Hammy representing his club to the fullest and getting literally 0 points.
By the way,
jokes, Tigers fans. Don't kill me. I'm joking.
Hammy not in today, and I think it's worth noting where he is at the Brownlow medal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AFL's Night of Nights.
Yeah. Gets 0 points in rugby league and then is also gallivanting in AFL. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
No ticker.
We need to. We'll start calling him Owen because he's 0-4.
I like that one.
Dog.
Oh, that is
for
dog.
AFL.
And also, he was at the Swans game on the weekend instead of the league game. So all the negative press that league got because the AFL game was full, Hammy was a part of that.
Yep.
He was literally a part of the reason why NRL got negative press. So there you go.
He wasn't the only one here, to be fair.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Yep. I was
What?
at the AFL.
Yeah.
You went as well?
I went to the Swans game. Yeah,
Oh my
did.
God.
I
You know
know. But you know what? I actually had KO up the whole time watching the rugby league. I was like, people behind me definitely hate me right now that I'm sitting here watching.
You know what? It must be a sports bets thing. It must be because they got Nepo Baby Dan over there in the AFL where they love him. He gets all the videos, all the push on the forgetting what it is now, my
Feed.
God. On the feed, yeah. He gets all the support on that. He gets all the Nepo Baby push, but rugby league is the winner this year by a long shot as well. Alrighty. So that means that, Timmy, you won this week, mate.
Thanks,
you won
mate.
this week. I think that, mate, I'm still on top for the finals, though. I'm still on top of the finals.
Just need to drag a few try scores and we'll be...
See how we go. Hopefully get some next week, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Alrighty, let's get into it, shall we? Team of the week, brought to you by Bloke Beer. Beer for blokes that turn up for family, mates, and good times. This team of the week, obviously, it's mostly from two sides, but there's some other smokies that got in there. At fullback, Tedesco. At 2, Mulatalo. At 3, Iro. At 4, Valentine Holmes, who saved one of his better games for his last games. He was incredible. At 5, Tupou. I've got to say, just quickly on the Cowboys, and we'll get to the Cowboys, but like they may have moved him on a year too early. Because how many games has Holmes had big plays for them that got them through this season? So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. Granted, they got a lot of good youngsters coming through, but Broncos, they're guilty. We just went through it. We have some really good young fellas coming through, but we may have moved some guys on a year too early.
Yep.
At 5, Tupou. At 6, Tricky Trindle. At 7, Sandon Smith. 8, Toby Rudolph. What a bounce back game. Easily best game of his career. At 9, Connor Watson, the hot pirate, strikes again. At 10, Terrell May. 11, Nikora. 12, Hamale Olakwatu. 13, McInnes. 14, Dearden. 15, McIntyre. Holy. Honestly, McIntyre might nearly be player of the final series so far. Like, obviously, the Melbourne and Penrith, if you took them out of it, out of the lower tier teams of the top 8, McIntyre's been one of the best players across both games.
Mate, he's been unreal all year for them. He's been huge for the Cowboys.
Yep. So, and the good thing for Cowboys fans is he's probably not on a big contract.
I think he gets the award for, in the finals, punching above expectation.
100%.
It's been awesome.
He's been so
he
good.
He did it, obviously, at centre. On the weekend.
Craziness. T. Wilton at 16, 17, Cotter. That is the team of the week, brought to you by Bloke Beer. Alrighty, time for Menulog's Hungriest Player. And Menulog's Hungriest Player this week is, I'm just looking for the segment here on the paper. Matty sent through. Can't find it. Anyway, the Hungriest Player this week is Tricky Trindle. That is right. Trindle is the hungriest player this week. Use code Trindle, so that is TRINDALL, for $7 off Burger Cuisine. Minimum spend is $20. Actually, it is here. I found it, guys. Apologies. Braden Trindle, he's our hungriest player. Use code Trindle, TRINDALL, for $7 off burgers. Minimum spend is $20. I mean, easily the game of Trindle's career. And what I liked about this game for Trindle is when the Sharkies were going so well early this year, and everything was flying. They looked like they'd improved. They'd got wins over bigger teams. They'd won some top 8 sides, all that stuff. And then obviously he had his issues off the field. And as a club, you'd be sitting there going, mate, you finally got everything sorted. You have this silly error. There is no better way to pay back a club than have a elimination final performance that Trindle had. And that all comes off the back of extremely hard work. And you can say you're sorry. You can go in there and say, boys, I'm so sorry, and do all the talk. But it's your actions that show you how sorry you are. And Trindle, for me, it was a redemption game. It was a game to show the club, you've been patient with me, and this is how I can repay you with it. I've been born with natural ability. I'm an incredibly talented footballer. Just got to work a little bit harder to get it out of me, and we got it on the weekend. Incredible performance from Trindle.
Completely agree. And, mate, I remember a few months ago when Trindle had those dramas, I just sat there and went, bro, what are you doing? Like, you've been so patient, waiting behind Matty Moylan. You finally get your opportunity. And I sort of thought
it could veer his career off.
I thought it had.
Yeah.
I thought it like Atkinson, obviously, a few weeks later, I think he came in, he beat the Melbourne Storm single-handedly. Like, it could have really thrown his career. But what a bounce back. I thought he was fantastic on the weekend. We'll talk about the halves pairing later. But he was sensational.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we just look at a time in the career, like what a time to pull it out, as you said, boys, in a sudden death finals game. And at this point in his career, we're getting to a stage where a lot of these season number 7s in the NRL, and I know Trindle played as a 6, but I think we agree he's an out-and-out number 7. That's where he plays his best footy. We're seeing like DCE, he's in the back end of his career, Adam Reynolds back end of his career, Chad Townsend, all of the game's better 7s. Trindle has put his hand up at a time where there's going to be slots available and big money spots at clubs. So, of course, it's only one game in terms of this was, in my opinion, the best game of his career, but he's made a real statement on the weekend. Now, can he back it up? We'll see.
Well, the standard's been set too, because now you haven't just done it in clubland where a lot of 7s can do it. You did it in an elimination final with it all on the line. So I guess the challenge, and I think Fitzy and the Sharkies, and I think Trindle himself, heading into next year, it's no longer okay for me to be an inconsistent 7 that's seen as a rookie that's coming in. You've done this on one of the biggest stages. Like, granted, it's not a grand final, it's not a prelim. It's as close as you can get. Like the talk heading into this year's finals, and most finals is oh yeah, the halves, they do it in season, but can they do it in the big games? He's done it in the big games. So that's the standard now. That's the standard. So incredible game. Use code Trindle for $7 off Burgers Cuisine. Minimum spend is $20. Alrighty. It's time for the hot take. It's so hot right now. We're going to give Guru a week off this week. We're going to bring a week off.
Hold me back. For my own good.
Look, this is a bit of a mild take. It's more hot in the sense of you could really pick anyone and it would probably be the right answer. It's hot in the sense of it's hotly contested. I think from a guy that a few weeks ago, if you had said to me who was the Australian fullback, I would have said it's Dylan Edwards every day and tomorrow. It is Dylan Edwards 8 days of the week. Lock him in. He's earned it. He was great in Origin. He's been great for 3 years now. And yet over the past 4 weeks, we have seen two players just continue to rise and rise and rise. So this is coming from a bloke that had Edwards locked. And even a couple of weeks ago when people were like, oh, I think even you might have brought up Teddy a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And I was like, nah, no way. Now, granted, if I was to select it, I still would go either Edwards or Ponga just because my selection process with Australia now is focusing on the next era. However, my hot take is the fullback position, it's arguably never been more hotly contested, or at the very least, it's extremely hotly contested right now, and I don't know who's going to get the nod.
Yeah, I think, I've heard a lot of people sort of just assuming Teddy won't be there because he wasn't in Origin and everything. He's the incumbent captain. Like, he is the captain of the Kangaroos at the moment. And I agree with you. If he was fully fit, Edwards is the guy. But like it's like he's been running around on one leg for 2 months now.
So brave.
So it is so brave. But surely if you're Penrith, you say to Edwards, mate, we can't have you playing for the Kangaroos at the end of this season. Like, he's already made his debut. He's already been there. I can't see Edwards playing there. KP is probably the best choice. But, I mean, can you deny Teddy? Like, if they come out and he's in a grand final this year, he could win a Dally M in 10 days, whether he should or shouldn't. I don't really care.
Yeah.
As far as getting that jersey, it could still be his.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, look, if I was punting on it, I would say James Tedesco, and that is because Mal Meninga's he's very loyal and always has been. He's always been a pick and stick. He was for the better part of a decade with the Maroons. Granted, it was pretty easy to be loyal to that squad and the people he had available. But even in recent years for the Kangaroos, he's very loyal to his players, and Tedesco couldn't have put up much of a better year this season for the Roosters. And as you said, Kempy, in the back end of the year when it's mattered and cementing that top 4 spot in the first few weeks of finals, he could not have done any more for them. I think it should be Kalen Ponga, though.
Agreed.
And I just think he offers something that Teddy doesn't, and even a fit Dylan Edwards doesn't. And it's not to say I'd be upset by it being Dylan Edwards, or, there are so many great options, but I just think he's got better ball playing than both of them. He's actually developed this year a really good kicking game as well. Takes a bit of pressure off the halves there. He's got the speed. He's got the footwork. Tedesco and Edwards, similar enough in a lot of ways. Big meters, big yardage. Obviously very good attacking players, but very much role players. Kalen Pong is just the X factor, and I think he's the pick of all of them.
Yeah, well, see, the funny thing is that Edwards at his peak, I felt he offered enough incredible ball running that it kind of not outweighed, but it weighed up equally with KP's incredible explosiveness. But I agree with Roo, where if I'm the Panthers, I'm saying, mate, you need an off season.
Yeah.
Like, you need to go away, obviously keep fit in a sense, but you just need to rest your body. Matter of fact, like, if I'm the Panthers, I know they won't do this, but I would almost be saying I don't want any of my players in rep footy. Like, that team, they're heading into a finals where they're going to be red hot favourites to make their 5th grand final in a row. But Edwards especially, like, he's been battling through so many injuries. And then I look and I go, okay, in regards to take out name and take out history, because I think a lot of the reason why I'd also pick Edwards initially was the deserving nature of what he's done, like just what he has done for the last 3 years. Then I go, okay, let's take out name and let's take out history. Could Teddy and Edwards do what Kalen Ponga did for the Knights? That's my question. Could they, if you had Teddy in the Knights side, would he drag them into a top 8 finish? Maybe, maybe not. But what we do know for sure is KP did do that. And that's when I go, probably. And also I add into the fact KP could be a long-term decision there. You can keep him there. I know they play, Australia, once a year, play for the country once a year. However, I do think combinations matter. I do think and that's why, for example, a lot of people were going DCE last year, and I was going Cleary because I'm like, you just got to give the keys to Cleary. You got to give the keys to Cleary. At the moment, if I was to select it right now, I'd go KP.
I reckon you'll see both selected in the squad. I think you'll start to see a changing of the card during this series.
And that's the other factor as well, in that you look at Callum Ponga, who at the night, he has lifted it off the camps. He's lifted them to finals football. He's been unbelievable. Teams double down on him, they triple down, and they do everything they can to shut him down. When he's playing for Australia, when he has superstars everywhere, he doesn't have to be the guy every time they're attacking, every time they touch the ball, attacking the opposition line. He can slot in, play his role, get his hands on the ball when he wants to. He'll get more opportunities to get his one-on-ones and do his damage because oppositions won't double down on him because they're going to have superstars across the field that they need to worry about. So I think Ponga's the play.
Yeah, look, I will say though, all three of them absolutely deserve. If you're talking about deserving, all three of them. Like Teddy he has reminded everyone why he's a champion.
Yeah.
Like the amount of people that count him out at the start of this year, he's been incredible.
On Dylan Edwards, and if you're Penrith, of course you want him resting and getting his body right. And he said he doesn't look 100%, but a couple more weeks, hopefully there's no aggravation of any current injuries. I think it's his knee seems to be struggling with a little bit. A bit of a break before the first game for the Kangaroos. This is a bloke who he might have an incredibly small window in his career to potentially cement a Kangaroos fullback spot, because if he gives it up at the end of this year, you have Ponga and Walsh breathing down your neck. They get a sniff of it. We know what they can and probably will do.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have runs on the board for the Kangaroos where he goes, no, it's all right, I'll give it a year off and I'll come back next year. He needs to take this opportunity, so he'll want to play.
He'll want to play for sure. I think as well, like purely form-wise, since he's came back, if you were just to take away name and past and just look at their form the last 10 weeks or so, or let's just say 5 weeks, he's been good, but he hasn't been. I think Tedesco and KP have been substantially better. And I'm talking about just these last 10 weeks. If you go back to the start of the year, Edwards was out and out the best fullback in the game, in my opinion. So really tough decision Mal's going to make.
What a spot to be in that we're talking about all these fullbacks and the names Trbojevic and Latrell Mitchell don't even come up because you're just going to shove them in the centres. Unbelievable.
Crazy. Incredible. Alrighty, let us know in the comments section, who do you think should be the fullback? Ella, who do you think should be the fullback?
Definitely not Tommy. He needs an off-season to prepare. No, I like the Ponga shout. I honestly wish Newcastle kind of went a bit deeper into the finals because I was keen to see if he could really lift them up. But excited.
KP?
Yep.
KP it is. Alrighty, guys, the stadium issue. So we'll be quick on this, but there was a lot of talk about, the drone shot where you could see the AFL packed out and then you saw a smaller stadium in the NRL when it comes to the Cowboys and the Sharkies. Look, I'm not going to pretend like I'm not going to pretend it's a good look, the fact that the stadium wasn't packed out for the Cowboys Sharkies, but there were mitigating circumstances. Obviously, you've got Sharks, they're in the Shire, and a lot of people don't know this, but the trains heading in, a lot of them were cancelled because of, I think it was a strike or something like that. Industrial action going on. But you had mates that were actually going to go.
You had a bunch of mates who were planning on heading into it, and there was all this promotion. The G train going into the ground, get on board it. Well, the G train actually got cancelled, so they were all planning on getting on these trains, heading into the footy again. Looking to be like 70, 80,000, whatever amount of people it was in Moore Park precinct at that time to get to the game. Trains got cancelled and a lot of them missed the game and had to stay back. So look, that wasn't going to add another 20,000 people to the crowd, but that was a factor where it was reduced as a result of it.
Yeah. So look, I understand it's not a good look next to the AFL. However, the next night where we had a team, the Sydney Roosters, who basically, the equivalent of the Sydney Swans, where they're located, we saw a sellout. I think as well as people need to realise, AFL is a game where it's better to watch in person because you get that depth of field that you need to see what's happening off the ball. Whereas NRL, it's a TV game. Like, I know it wasn't made for TV, but you actually get a much better view of the action from a TV camera than you do when you go to a game. So I don't think it's huge concerns. People that are, banging the alarm bell because of what happened or whatever, I think it's a bit dramatic. It's not good, but it's not this dramatic alarm bells, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. And even what you said there, mate, like the Swans, the equivalent, like the Roosters, the equivalent of the Swans. Like there's 2 AFL teams in Sydney. There's fucking 9,000 NRL teams in Sydney. Like I don't think we're comparing apples and apples there. I'm not too concerned.
On top of it, as you said, Sharkies, it's about, it would have been a longer commute on the weekend because of the lack of public transport and how busy the roads would have been, but it's about 45 minutes.
Minimum.
Cronulla to Shark Park, to Moore Park, on a good run with all of that traffic. So you add in that, they're not actually playing at their home venue. You add in their opposition, it was the Cowboys coming down from Townsville, it was never really going to be 45,000. You add into it as well. And again, you want rugby league fans not having to choose between the two. You want them at the NRL, but you add in an Ella, you add in a Hammy who, if the Swannies weren't there, they're at the NRL game. And as you just said, Kempy, it's not a great look. You wanted more at the NRL and competing a little bit more. But at the end of the day, mate, rugby league for a number of years now, it's been a TV sport. The AFL, and it's a credit to them, the way they pack out stadiums, they've done it for many years. It's never going to change. It's a wonderful atmosphere going to an AFL game. They do it well.
I wouldn't know, mate. Wouldn't know. You'd know though, wouldn't you? Wouldn't know, mate. Actually,
you beef with Hammy, not me.
I actually did. Cam Smith took us down to one in Melbourne. It was actually...
it's unreal when you're there live.
The atmosphere is incredible. Yeah. And just the shape of the ground too and everything suits it. So,
Just on the Cowboys too. It was Monday where we didn't know if the Cowboys 17 players were going to get down.
Yeah.
Let alone their fans.
I think as well, you got to remember, they got to fly from North Queensland all the way down to Sydney, which is a mammoth fly. On top of that, the AFL was at Port Adelaide.
Yep.
Their fans would have been flying in. Accommodation would have been through the roof. So you would have been, as a league fan, you're not just competing with other league fans to get a hotel. You're competing with the AFL fans, Port Adelaide, which do travel. So anyway, as I said, we're not pretending it's a good look at all. We're not going, oh no, it's all good. It's still not good, but it's not as dramatic, in my opinion, as some people think it is. Now, this makes me excited. I'm so pumped. So last year, guys, and I've been getting messages, genuinely been getting messages constantly since last year's drop. That's right. Aussie Footy Shorts and Bloke are doing a drop again next Monday, 6 p.m. We are partnering with Aussie Footy Shorts for the next 4 to 6 weeks, but we're bringing back the Bloke Aussie Footy Shorts shorts collaboration. We did it last year, and as I said, guys, people message me all the time asking for some Aussie Footy Short Bloke footy shorts. Matter of fact, this is how much I love working with Aussie Footy Shorts. We could make footy shorts ourselves. We have all the connections, with the manufacturers and everything. We choose not to because I love working with Oz Footy Shorts. That's how much I love his shorts, because the footy shorts have pockets. He's got years and years in the business. He's a massive footy fan. So we are back working with them next Monday, 6 p.m. And yeah, they'll be partnering the show for the next 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm so stoked to bring Oz Footy Shorts on as a partner. And you'll be seeing new Bloke Footy Shorts coming out next Monday, 6 p.m. We've got maroon, we've got blue. We might even have green and gold. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe not. So stoked. Aussie Footy Shorts is going to be a partner for the next 4 to 6 weeks. And I just love seeing, a bloke like myself building his own thing. And some of the footy shorts you can get on there now are amazing, genuinely mad. And the secret, honestly, I think it was in the Garden of Eden that they made this up. Pockets in footy shorts. And he was there and was, holy shit, hit him. Boom, pockets in footy shorts. Can put my phone in. So good.
I was about to say there was a moment in the early 80s where Wally Lewis introduced the spiral pass and changed the game forever. Very similar to pockets on footy shorts.
It's
game changer.
So friggin' good. So as I said, last year's Bloke Footy Shorts, they were actually our fastest selling product nearly ever. Maybe our jerseys are quicker, but maybe not even quicker. Equal. So that's how quickly they went, guys. Next Monday, 6 p.m, Oz Footy Shorts going to be a partner with the show for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Support locally made, local grown businesses, and he's an absolute legend. Alrighty, Walsh contract. It's reported. I tell you what, when I was watching the report of this on the TV, they made the contract sound so complicated. I was like, what is happening right now? Anyway, we'll just get it short and sweet for you. Basically, on average, it's going to be $1 million a year for the next 4 years. So he's got another year to go on his current contract, and then they'll extend him another 4 years on top of that. So that's another 5 years at the Broncos, reportedly. And it will average out to $1 million a year across that period. Me personally, I think this is, first of all, if it is true that this gets signed and that's the amount, and Walshy has signed with the Broncos, that's a bloody good look for the Broncos that they managed to go to Walshy and go, mate, Paddy Carrigan's taken a pay cut, Payne Haas has, Ezra Mam has, it's time for you now to take a little bit less to stay. So first of all, I think Reece Walsh, if this is true that he has agreed to this, deserves a massive rap. And, how often he gets this negative rap because he's young, he has a bit of swagger about him, he's good looking, and you don't often associate loyalty, taken pay cuts. He's doing exactly that. He's doing exactly that to stay at the Brisbane Broncos if this report is correct. So I think he deserves a lot of credit. And I think I actually think it's a fair deal in regards to if he wants to win a premiership, it's probably where you want to land, even if he was at another club. However, I know other clubs would probably pay $1.5 million for him, some of the lower tier clubs. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. And I think you got to remember too, like when he arrived at the Broncos from the Warriors, like he was on unders then too. So like it's twice now.
Yeah.
He's taken unders. So I love it. We always joke about the new salary cap, the old salary cap. Like $1 million a season's great in the old salary cap.
I'll say the line.
Please do.
We're talking about the new salary cap, not the old salary cap. So it's equivalent to about 800 grand.
But how weird is it to be saying like it's great even in the new salary cap?
Yeah.
Like like you're sort of doing the inverse of what you usually do. I love it, and I think like he's just still so young. He's got so much more footy in front of him, and hopefully obviously the grand final last year, but seasons like this, I think it could pay dividends for him.
I tell you what, like I know, as I said, because he's easy to dislike because he's polarizing, he's in your face, he's good looking, all that kind of stuff. I think a lot of fans don't realise if you have an impact as often as Reece Walsh has in games, like that's super hard to do. Like if you can go through most games and impact the result, like that is a special talent. Kalen Ponga is almost the king of that. And there was also years where even KP struggled with that. Whereas Reece Walsh, literally every year he's been a part of the NRL, he's impacting games. Now, if you shave off an error or two heading into his next few years, I mean, you're going to have an absolute beast. And I agree with you too, Ru. Like, we forget all the time, the bloke's 21.
Yep.
He's got plenty of time to grow. Timmy, thoughts?
Yeah, look, if it's $1 million per season or thereabouts, as reported, I think it's an absolute steal for Reece Walsh. I do. He's a genuine superstar of the game, and there's so many different ways to look at it, but there's on-field and there's off-field, and when you're paying that much money for a bloke, off-field's almost as important as on-field, and Reece Walsh puts bums on seats. For the next 4 years, you can, all your marketing goes around this superstar, flamboyant player for the Brisbane Broncos. Like, by I really hope this isn't right or isn't true, but by post-Origin next season, if he comes out and starts season well with Brisbane, takes them back into top 4 where they, on paper probably should be a top 6, and he wins Queensland and Origin tiers, which he's more than capable of doing, we know the headlines will be there. $1 million a season, like why isn't it 1.4, why isn't it 1.5? This bloke is a superstar. Yes, there are chinks in his games. He has errors. He needs to round out a lot of corners, but he's 22 years old. Like, we spoke about Ponga getting the Knights off the canvas at times this year in the back end of the season. Walsh did it to the Broncos essentially all season, and he was carrying them at times.
Talking to a grand final, like, do they make the grand final without Reece Walsh? Like, I don't think so.
He's a superstar. So $1 million a season, as I said, in 12 months' time or even less than that, we could be sitting there going, that's a steal for Reece Walsh.
Yeah. And just the person he is, like the word superstar gets thrown around so often, but like Ella, we were in Vegas together. Like we watched all these guys walk down the red carpet. When Reece Walsh entered the red carpet in the cowboy hat, jumping up and down, it was just the whole place just erupted, didn't it? Like he is just something different.
Yeah, and as I said, like we constantly always hear the headlines of greedy footy players. He's taking unders, and I know he came back for personal family reasons, but it's still taking unders. He could have gone to another club for a bigger contract. He's taken unders again, and I know people will sit there and go, unders, it's still $1 million. Like that's irrelevant to the point. It's what your market value is and what he could get elsewhere. And I think we can all agree, like there's there's a lot of parts of his game he has to round out. Find me a 21-year-old or 22-year-old that doesn't have parts of the game that they need to round out, especially a 21-year-old, 22-year-old that takes the risks that he takes. Like I've seen a few people that were comparing guys that were 2 or 3 years into their career to Kalen Ponga now. And what always frustrates me when you see a guy like Kalen Ponga eventually reach to what he has reached with how good he's been, they just it's like they just forget, mate, he's had years where it was 2 or 3 years where it was extremely quiet, didn't do much. Nathan Cleary had years where it was extremely quiet. It takes time to develop as a player, especially in that position. I love it.
You add into it as well, Kempy. Like, you talk about his errors, and he has more than most players in the NRL, but he's given it a licence by Kevy Walters, by Billy Slater, to play this attacking, flamboyant style of footy where You know, he goes to the line at such speed. He throws some pretty outrageous passes time. Like, if they said to him, mate, we want you to be more like Dylan Edwards or more like James, say, tuck it under your arm, run it more, you know, risk mitigation, less errors, he could do it. But that's not his style of football. He's been given those orders by his coaches, and more often than not, it comes off.
Yeah. And I think also that the key for him is just time and place. Yep. Like, I think if you were to look at specifically, all right, what would you fix in his game? It would be, well, you know, instead of throwing that crazy cutout ball on the third tackle coming out of your own end, throw the cutout ball, you know, on their 40-metre line, on the fourth tackle. That's genuinely, it's not actually the cutout ball's the issue, it's just a time and place, which he will work out. Because guess what? Billy Slater had the same issue. I remember speaking to Smithy a couple of weeks ago, and we talked about that infamous ball that he threw back in to New Zealand and they scored and won it. And I said, oh, Smithy, like, was he devastated? Like, was he, like, rattled and he threw that ball in and basically it ended the game and New Zealand won? And Smithy said, no, he said he'd do it every time again. That opportunity come again, he'll do it every time. He said because that's what got him into first grade. That is who he was as a player. The only difference is just picking the time, picking the moment, which, you know, it's like when you actually think about it at an even deeper level, if Billy was to remove that part of his game, what makes him that different to other fullbacks that are pretty quick? Like, you know, for example, Reece Walsh, if he comes and becomes conservative, he's a relatively small, really quick fullback. Like, you know what I mean? You're basically taking away his big weapon.
And if I'm coaching against Reece Walsh and I know he's going to be more conservative, I'm going, thank fuck.
Yeah, mad. Awesome.
Yeah. Unreal.
Yeah.
Because, yes, he might get 3 errors, but he can also pull off 4 plays that I know my team can't defend.
Yeah. There's no system that can sort it out. So, yeah, I'm stoked. If it is true and it all comes to fruition, and I just want to reiterate the fact, he's taken a pay cut to stay at the Brisbane Broncos. Like, that says a lot about his character, and I hope people remember that. Especially, like, let's say the Broncos go well the next few years and he's been on this pay cut, and then in the 3rd or 4th year, he goes, you know, I want an upgrade. Let's remember the time that he took the pay cut, guys. Because I guarantee you, if he does ask for an upgrade of 3 or 4 years after the Broncos, let's say they've been going well, people will be like, oh, greedy this, greedy that. It's like, mate, he's taken the pay cut. He's done the right thing by the club. So, yeah, I'm excited. Super, super stoked if it does come through. And I'm such a fan of Walshy as a player and as a bloke. Cannot wait to see him develop.
It would be crazy to see if he did hit the open market, like, as a footballer, but just as a fucking billboard.
Yeah, it's the billboard.
It's the billboard factor that I think people sleep on. Like you said, 1.5 before, which sounds outrageous for a guy that hasn't won a comp. You know, he's only played 3 or 4 years. But, man, like if you had 2 clubs that looked at him and went, okay, this could be a turning point, he could push higher than that, I reckon. I genuinely do.
Well, look at Joey, just came out recently, and you may disagree with this, but he said that KP was a bigger signing than Ben Kennedy at the Knights.
I do disagree, but Joey would probably know slightly better.
But like, it just shows you when KP signed for that massive wicket, $750K, and he played 3 or 4 first grade games. People are going, what the hell? And then he signed for another one. He's the highest paid player in the NRL. I don't think any Knights fans sitting there going, oh, I wish we didn't pay him for fucking 1.4.
Imagine what the new Perth franchise would pay for Reece Walsh. Year one, trying to... And also over there, how's it going to go? That there are question marks around the new Perth franchise. You have Reece Walsh to promote the game over there. Boom.
Put him on every news station, every TV. Ella, what do you reckon?
Oh, I think Reece Walsh has like introduced a whole new audience to rugby league. Like, my TikTok is full of teenage girls obsessed with Reece Walsh, going to Broncos games just to see him. So, like, I think it's great for the game that he can tap into that kind of audience.
What's crazy is, like, I can totally relate with Reece Walsh. The same thing happened to me when I was except it was blokes.
And there was no
just
TikTok.
loved their footy. And there was no TikTok.
No TikTok, yeah.
No, but you're right. It's like, as blokes, that I'm not on TikTok, like, Bloke in a Bar is on TikTok, but I don't consume TikTok. I don't go on it. I don't really know about it. You know, we probably represent a big portion of the rugby league community, but that's a huge portion of the audience you want to kind of be attracted. And Reece Walsh is one of the very rare players that does. Like, I'm trying to think of another young guy that... It's all
Broncos players. It's like Reece Walsh, Jordan Ricky and Pat Carrigan. Yeah. Like, those are the 3.
Can I tell you, there's... The Broncos have signed in the last year or two Chanel Harris-Tavita's younger brother, who they reckon is going to be a very good... Like, the Warriors were filthy to let him go, and the Warriors sort of... Their negotiations with him, from what I've gathered, he just said, I want to play with Reece Walsh. Like Chanel Harris-Tavita is at the Warriors, his brother, and it sounds like they couldn't get past the fact that he just wanted to play with Reece Walsh.
That's incredible. That's crazy. I mean, it's reality. It's reality. So it's a great insight. Like that's a whole part of rugby league that we, getting a bit older, we just don't know about. But it's important. You have to engage the next generation.
Yep.
Yeah, incredible. Awesome stuff. Stoked. All right, RCG. Talking about girls on TikTok. Oh, RCG, the big fella. Hey, the moustache. Going crazy. Still yet to land a contract. Titans reportedly interested recently. This is getting a bit weird. It is getting a bit weird because the fact that you have already agreed, him and the Eels have agreed to part ways, you would assume that a contract announcement is like a week post, because why would you say, yep, I'm out of here, I'm happy to leave, without something ready to go straight away? Getting a little bit strange, even though the report suggests there are a lot of NRL clubs interested. What are your thoughts on the situation?
Yeah, it's just been odd how the whole thing's played
Very
out,
weird.
hasn't it? It's been strange. Even like, no, it doesn't matter, but even watching that spoon bowl, like Gutho and him pushing each other out of like having a laugh and a joke, but just the whole thing's just the optics of it.
You got Player of the Year at the Eels.
Did he really?
Yeah.
It was announced the same day as they announced him leaving.
Wow.
And so he got Player of the Year leaving and Rookie of the Year telling you obviously leaving. Now, that wasn't their play slang. That wasn't really the Eels' fault. Like,
Yeah,
that
for
was
sure,
to play outside clearing.
But it just adds to the weird narrative.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. I think it'd be a good signing for a number of clubs. What are you playing for a guy like us, CG? What are we, sevens?
I'd be happy with 2 years at 700K.
7? Yeah.
That's the issue, isn't it? I'm like, with RCG, he'd be a great signing, especially with all his experience, what he's done in the game. It's just the money factor. Like, you said, he just got Player of the Year for the Parramatta Eels, and run meters were down to 124 per game this year. Parramatta had a terrible year, so they were in spoon bowl a couple of weeks ago. The year before, 148 metres per game. The year before that, 150. So this year, I know it's only a one-off year, but a declining year in terms of statistically speaking. I'm just so fascinated at the moment by the way the modern day forward pack is going, and I can't help but look at Parramatta's lack of success in the last couple of seasons and how disappointing they've been, and then looking at like Junior Borlo and Regan Campbell-Gillard and these big boppers, even like a bigger bodied lock-in Jermaine Hopgood. Is the game going away from this? Is Regan Campbell-Gillard, is he not worth the money that he might have been 2 or 3 years ago? And my gut feel says yes. It's still a relatively small sample size in terms of what the Doggies achieved this year, albeit knocked out in week 1 of finals. I get it, but the way
the Doggies with him, let's say you could get him at 600-700K.
And I just wonder, like, is it only... There's obviously still place for the big boy in rugby league, but the game is getting quicker. There's more fatigue in it, all these sorts of things. Great player, Campbell-Gillard. I wouldn't want to be in that trap of paying overs for him.
Oh, for sure. I wouldn't go 3 years. I wouldn't be going 3 years. I'd be going 2 years. I think I agree with what you're saying. Like, can you afford to have 3 big boppers like 10 years ago? I personally think 1 big bopper per forward pack.
Yeah.
1 big bopper. And also, he can't be too big. He has to be good laterally defensively. And I think RCG suits that. Like, for example, if you picked RCG up and put him into that Bulldogs forward pack, the impact I reckon he would have with those other smaller guys around him would be quite substantial.
Yeah, a big bopper starting, a big bopper off the bench, and they can sort of alternate and that sort of thing. So you have that big bopper, the impact coming off the bench. But you just, the more I watch, I'm just thinking you don't want too many of them.
I'd go 1, seriously.
Yeah.
1 big bopper, and then I'd be having more. The other players can be big, but they've got to be mobile.
Yeah.
They have to be good laterally. And so I do think there are quite a few forward packs that if you get him for 2 years, like I think 2 years is where I'd go, and I wouldn't probably go higher than 700.
You got RCG, you got Dan Saifidi. Which one would you rather?
I'd go RCG.
Yeah, you go him over Saifidi?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, and like so RCG, because Saifidi's on 800, isn't he, as well? And they're going to chip in 200 or 400 of the contract.
I am more confident of getting out a strong performance week in, week out, and the consistency in Campbell-Gillard. Dan Saifiti's highs are arguably higher than Campbell-Gillard. He's very reliable, Campbell-Gillard. Saifidi, great footballer, but just too up and down for me if you're playing in big bucks.
And also, he's about 28 now, I think, as well, Saifidi. So the age isn't that different. Who would you go?
I would probably lean towards Saifidi just And I know the age isn't a big thing, but he is just slightly younger. And I think he has. I think getting him out of Newcastle will be good for him. So
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, the longer this drags out, the stranger it is because, I guess the longer it drags out, unless there's multiple parties. If there's multiple parties, then obviously your market value is going to stay where it needs to stay. However, if there's only a couple of parties and it drags out longer, you get more bargaining power. Every week it goes longer, your bargaining power increases because he doesn't have a contract.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's got something lined up. I'm sure it just, I would have expected him. What about yourself, especially with a team like Manly, who actually have quite a few big boppers, but also could probably use an extra front rower?
I'd also take RCG. I think, again, on the consistency point, that's one of our biggest issues this year was that our forward pack could go from being one of the best in the comp one game, against the Bulldogs in the regular season. I was like, oh my God, if they played like this every single week, we're winning the comp. But then the next week, they just go missing. So, I'd take him, but obviously we don't have heaps of cap space either. So, would not take him for anything more than, market value for sure.
Alrighty. Okay. Now also stoked, our friends over at Hello Sport, they are now partnered with the show. That is right, Good Day. Multivitamin, super easy to use, guys. It has everything that you could want. I actually use it every single day, guys. I use it on the way here. It comes in a little pouch, and basically you get 30. Each morning you get a glass of water, you pour it in, you mix it up. It gives you all the multivitamins you could want. Super convenient. The boys at Hello Sport launched it a few months ago. It's been outstanding, and I genuinely have been using it since launch. And I tell you what, the amount of times where usually if I get a little bit crook, I would be super crook. But because I've been taking so many multivitamins, it makes it so that you don't get crook for as long and you don't get as crook. So it's been an absolute game changer for me. And so with the segment, we want to talk about who needs some Good Day? Who needs a multivitamin to make them feel better? First of all, I think Timmy does because he's a little bit sniffly today.
I'm crook. I pounded a couple of them this morning. I'm on the up again.
On the up now, okay. And so who needs a good day? Now, use code BLOKE for 20% off. Use code BLOKE for 20% off. You can head over there, give their Instagram a follow. So I'm just getting their thing up now. Apologies, guys. Yep, use code BLOKE for 20% off. And I'm just going to their Good Day Instagram so you can give it a follow. So their Instagram is Good Day Oz, and if you go to their so basically go to their Instagram and you go to their link tree and you can go to their website, which is www.begoodhealth.com.au. And as I said, guys, this is genuinely a product I use religiously, so much so I subscribe so that what happens is I get, oh shit, I've only got 4 or 5 left, and literally the next day the postman knocks on the door and says, here's your next one. And it's seriously life changer. But who needs some Good Day? I'll tell you who needs some Good Day. And we waited until Hammy wasn't here to talk about this because this is alarming. Now, guys, we're talking about this because we want this club to be better. We're not putting the boot in. However, it's a reality that needs to be talked about. The West Tigers won the spoon in the NRL. They won the spoon in the NRLW. They won the spoon in the New South Wales Cup. Half their club, Balmain, won the spoon in SG Ball. The Magpies came 8th in SG Ball. Harold Matthews, Balmain won the spoon. And the Magpies, this is a really good sign, the Magpies came 2nd. So the younger guys doing really well, or half their younger guys. The West Tigers need some Good Day. They need some multivitamins to make them feel better. And in all jokes aside, guys, this is going to sound crazy. And maybe, because I came into league in the early 2000s, like 2005, so maybe I'm being super naive and this is the wrong way to go about it. But are we getting to the point where the West Tigers need help from the NRL? Because that's alarming that in a place where it's essentially the heartland of rugby league, the club is winning spoons in all grades. I know it sounds dramatic, but I mean, this club, it's been a basket case for quite a while now. Is it time for the NRL to be able to step in? Because the game isn't. I know a lot of people, they fall under the idea of okay, less teams in Sydney is a good idea. I don't think we should be getting rid of any teams. So that's where we're we can't have a club to be this weak all the way down to the bottom. Should the NRL be stepping in? So that's one part of the question. And the second part is, what are your thoughts on this situation?
I don't hate the idea of the NRL stepping in. What that would look like, I've got no idea. But I always think, guys, this West Tigers franchise, could you imagine if Benji Marshall never came along? Imagine if he doesn't pop his head up in 2005. Like, where would this franchise be?
It honestly, it might be gone. Seriously.
I reckon there's every chance it is. Like, had he not exploded as a young fella and won that like, if you take out that premiership, they had a couple of years sort of in the late 2000s, early 2010s where they were relevant. But outside of that, it has just been carnage the entire way through. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would assume it's been 6 coaches in 15 years. Like, they've flown through coaches. It has just been a basket case the entire way through. And even to the point, man, as you say, like, SG Ball and Harold Matts, like, you got 2 split teams, and like, the whole thing is just carnage.
Like, could the NRL step in and go, we need to streamline all of this because it's not working? Because, like, a lot of people go, hang on a sec, like, look at the Gold Coast Titans. Like, they haven't won a premiership. The difference is the Gold Coast, that's not the heartland of rugby league. Like, no professional outfit has gone well in that area. But the West Tigers, they are... you could basically go, if you had a good system, you could be the Penrith Panthers. That's the access you have to talent. The Gold Coast Titans, they're a tiny club on the Gold Coast that no professional club has gone well at.
Yep.
Timmy, thoughts?
Yes, boys, good day. It works miracles, but there's not enough of it on the planet to save the Tigers at the moment. They are in all sorts. And it's awful to see as well because, like, I had... went to year 11 and 12 at St Greg's in Campbelltown, heart of, the club and the West. And there was just always such a blossoming talent pool for rugby league. And it still is, don't get me wrong. There's so much talent out West, and the club should just be in so much better a spot than it is right now. And I don't know the intricacies, what's going on behind the scenes, but clearly a lot is going wrong, and they need any support they can get. I'm keen to see, and I've sort of mentioned it a few times, we mentioned after Spoon Bowl, but I do want to see where they are in 12 months' time, just because they did their big clean out of the board and a lot of the stuff and all sorts of things last season. These things don't happen overnight. It takes more than a year. So I'm keen to see if there's if they win another Spoon and their juniors go poor again and the feeders, all that again next season, then you go, all right, you've had your clean out and nothing's changed. Then there are there's already serious issues, but then it's like panic stations and something needs to happen. But those numbers that were read out, they're pretty horrific.
Yeah, and to be clear, Tigers fans, this is not us gloating in the negative. We want the Tigers to be a powerhouse. This is us looking at it and going, the Spoon in NRL, New South Wales Cup, NRLW, SG Ball, Balmain, Tigers come 8th, Harold Matthews, Balmain, Spoon, Maggie, like that's... Yeah, we want the Tigers to come out of this and be a strong club because that makes it better for all of rugby league that West Tigers are a strong club. But I agree with you, Timmy. Like, this administration needs at least 12 to 24 months to see how they go. Then, if it's still a basket case and they're like sitting 15th, 16th, their juniors are struggling, they're losing players to all other teams, maybe the NRL does step in, not in an ownership capacity or whatever, but in a capacity of like, how do we streamline this club just to give it a fighting chance?
Just to give a little bit of context, because I know there'll be West Tigers fans that'll just be about pulling their cars over on the highway. Obviously, they had to debut like a heap of players this year. They used more than ever. So obviously, that does have a domino effect down to your reserve grade and your jersey flag and all that sort of stuff. Just wanted to put that context out there.
For sure. Put it this way. We're not having a crack at this administration and what's happening right now at the Tigers. We agree with the direction they're trying to head in. It's more for the last however many years, it's a club that is super underachieved. It's not a club that's, a tiny club that's with a tiny population or a population that, isn't a rugby league heartland. So, I don't know. Look, maybe there are Tigers fans, West Tigers fans sitting there going, we wish that would happen. We would love some help in streamlining the club. Or maybe we're just looking at too small of a window, and the last 20 years, is a too short window to look at.
And I mean, there is every chance that over the next couple of years, your Galvins, your Finers, all these guys with Luai arriving, these guys, I personally think it could turn around very quickly. I think they have recruited the right sort of guys to turn it around quickly, but I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a voice in the back of my head that says the Tigers will still find a way to butcher this.
I'm not talking about premierships or whatever. It's just competitive, make the 8,
being relevant.
Yeah. In saying that, look, where they come 9th a couple of times, 2016 through to
with Madge they came 9th.
Yeah. So anyway, just with that, put it this way, that result, we may be seeing some super hard, tough decisions being made by the Tigers that needed to happen 10 years ago that didn't. And that's why we're seeing such dramatic results. And we're going to see the benefit of this in 3 to 4 years. I hope that's the case. I really hope that's the case.
Isn't it crazy when you go back and have a look at the ladder from 2019? The West Tigers finished 9th, the Panthers finished 10th.
That's crazy. That is crazy.
You sit there and you go, hopefully the Tigers fans, it's not sitting there, pulling their car over on the highway and getting too upset. I've got a few mates who are diehard Tigers fans, and I don't think anyone will be sitting there going, oh, geez, they're going too harsh on the Tigers. Like, they sit there and they want results, and they want to see the club improve, and they want to see their club in the next couple of years back playing finals football. It's hard to sugarcoat. Like, results are a result.
Yeah.
3 spoons in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. Like 3 spoons in a row. That is that a record?
Knights did it.
Knights did it not that long ago.
2014 to 15 to 17 or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what they bought KP pretty much.
Yes. Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, yeah. When Joey said that about Ben Kennedy, it sounded pretty dramatic. But I mean, I know he hasn't won them a comp. They were literally 3 spoons in a row. Like,
yeah.
That's
yeah. I think when you're talking 3 spoons to the Tigers, well, like obviously it's bad, and I don't need to fucking point that out to you, but you throw in the context that there's been a new franchise enter for 2 of those years. It's pretty grim.
Yeah, it's grim. Hopefully we can turn around. What I hope we're seeing right now is, as I said, super tough decisions that there's a lot of short-term pain for long-term gain. I hope that is the case. Alrighty. Anyway, as I said, guys, use Bloke for 20% off your Good Day multivitamin. And as I said, I use this, guys, every day. I've been using it since they launched. I absolutely love it. The website is begoodhealth.com.au. 20% off your order. Every order, use code Bloke. Okay, let's get into it. Beak's bag. Alrighty. So, guys, leave a comment, a question under YouTube. You leave a question. Each week we pick one question, and whatever question we pick, we give them a $50 Bloke gift voucher. This week's cash question is Dean Westlake 4573. Email Matt@Bloke&a Bar to get your $50 voucher, Dean. Alrighty, here's the question. Thoughts on the NRL changing to a 5-man bench with an outside back on the bench? Still keep 18th man and outside back is the 5th man. Is a replacement for HI or injury. If the injured player is taken off, they can't be put back on. I personally think I like where the game is. I don't want any more changes. I think it's been good. I think bringing in the 18th man for the head knocks has been a great idea. I don't want to see any changes. I like exactly where it's at. But, Guru, I think you have a little bit of different feeling.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
But if the NRL was to bring in a 5-man bench where you choose which 4 of those 5 or 6 you use, I would also be okay with that. I think it makes sense. But I do have that traditional side to me as well, where I don't want to see mass changes like that. But I do think that with the amount of HIAs, and I think we're only going to have, we're going to be more and more careful with it as we should. I think that I don't think it'd be a bad play to go to a 5 or 6 man bench where you select which 4 you use.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think such a drastic change is required just yet. But as to Guru's point, we're only going to crack down on head knocks more and more and more. And just the impact it has on games as a result is just enormous. So the game has to tinker as a result of that. I would not be introducing a 5-man bench just yet, but in a couple of years' time, I think something along the lines of this probably will inevitably be introduced. I don't know if it'll be a 5-man bench or whatever, but there will be changes made, to compensate for blokes going down with head knocks. I think if you did it now, there's probably just too many, probably should be taken advantage of that interchange. So, yeah, not for me just yet, but in a couple of years' time, we might be looking at something like that.
I think also we've got so many parts. We've had so much change over the last few years. Let's settle on all of that and sort out all the chinks in the armour before we add in more. Because I feel like if there's been I've loved the direction the administration has taken the game. But if there is one knock you could probably say is there's been too many changes too quickly. So much so we had big change. We had to almost revert it within a span of 2 years. So I would just be let's settle down and sit on this, and then potentially in the future look at changing things. What do you reckon, Ella?
Well, I would have appreciated it when Tolutau Kula got knocked out on the weekend, the first tackle. But no, I agree. I think too many changes too quickly, maybe down the line. Would have loved, our 18th man was Clayton Falalu, who could have slipped straight to the centres, which would have been perfect. But definitely something they're going to have to think about if they're cracking down even further in the future.
From what I've been taught, like I would love to see this 5 and 6 man interchange used in reserve grade. Just see how it plays out.
Yeah,
I think in the juniors it'd actually be perfect. I think it makes so much sense.
That's why I was always surprised, like how quickly we made these changes in NRL instead of trialling them in Queensland and New South Wales Cup for a little bit. But look, I think the sentiment of it though is bang on. Yep. Like with HIAs, like, put it this way, as you just mentioned, geez, it's frustrating these days going, oh man, we got a head knock to a key position that's hard to replace. We're pretty much done here. Like, or not done. Like, you know, I thought Ben Travojevic was really good on the weekend, but like, it does deflate you quite a bit. And if you, as a fan, so like not talking about the contest, but from a fan's perspective, if you could go into the game going, even if like someone gets a head knock, like, let's say you've got your outside back on the bench and the coach puts him on and that outside back plays poorly, you can still be like, yeah, but we had an outside back. He just happened to play poorly, rather than going, you know, I think there's a lot of Manly fans that, you know, although they felt Roosters were the better side, I'm sure they're sitting there going, damn, I wish Jake Travojevic and Collar could at the very least be replaced for like to a degree.
Yeah, and as you said, like, it doesn't mean you're done, but when you look at the stats, it kind of suggests you are done.
Especially a centre. A centre is like
losing
tough.
An outside back we've spoken about it all year.
Yeah.
An outside back in the first half, let alone the first 8 seconds.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's a bit of a death sentence against good footy sides.
Whereas if you lose like Jake Travojevic, someone like, obviously they weren't as good as him because it's Jake Travojevic, but another forward came on and did their job. So the sentiment is bang on, and I do think eventually we'll probably get there.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like this administration is very fan first in regards to it, and people are going to blow up there and go, what about the referees? What I mean by is they're trying as hard as they can to make the game as exciting as possible. So much so that there's a lot of NRL players that go, it's too fast. Like the game is way too fast. So the sentiment is definitely there. Alrighty, it's time to review the Sharks defeating the Cowboys 26-18. And to start the review, I want to talk about what turned our frown upside down, brought to you by Grumpy Coffee. Head over to grumpycoffee.com.au. At 6 p.m. tonight, we are launching. We got pods, ground coffee, whole beans, you name it, we've got it at grumpycoffee.com.au. Also, a massive thank you to Biacchini's, I think that's how you pronounce it, Biacchini's on Cronulla, that allowed us to shoot the ad with Fisher Harris and Leota. Massive thank you to Joel, who shot a lot of it with his friend as well. They were awesome. All the ads you see was shot by Joel. So if you want some Joel Kummer, if you want some content shot, he's the man to go and speak to. And a massive shout out to the Bash Bros for Leota and Fisher Harris. I'm wearing their shirt right now, which you can purchase on the Bash Bros website. Head to the Bash Bros Instagram and you can see their drops I think it's each month they drop.
I thought you were the star of the show, to be honest with you.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, no, I did a key bit of work in that ad.
Underappreciated performance, I think.
And a massive thank you to Timmy for his little appearance in the end there.
That's right, mate.
It tied it all together, mate. It tied it all together.
And look, 20% commission, it's all right, I'll take it. But.
Alrighty, let's get into the review. And I want to start with what turned our frown upside down, brought to you by Grumpy Coffee. Give us a follow, Grumpy Drinks. It is the fact that the Sharks got the monkey off their back. The Sharks got the monkey off that. They got the win in the final series. And look, I love the fact that they came out there and they actually was the opposite. They weren't rattled at the start. They come and dominated the Cowboys, and it took, really it was some, I wouldn't say uncharacteristic errors, but errors that can be fixed, like a Ramian missed tackle and a Katoa drop ball. Outside of that, like if he catches, let's put it, you just go, Ramian, he can miss that tackle, but let's say Katoa catches that ball, it's a pretty dominant performance by the Sharkies in the end. And that's what turned my frown upside down. And I think also the combination of Hines and Trindle. Now, I've seen a lot of people, even after the Sharkies get through to a prelim, they're still negative on Nico. And it's just like, what do you want from this bloke? We've got stats here, and it's funnily enough, all three of us came in, and when we do our show notes in the green room, we go like, what do you want to talk about? And we all haven't spoken during we didn't speak during the weekend and we didn't speak during the game. We all came in here and we're like, we cannot believe that Nico is still getting negative press. Like, what more do you want from him? Last year in the finals, and I'll let you take this over, Roo, his stats when they didn't get the win. So even when he plays well, they don't get the win, you're angry because they didn't get the win. But then when he takes his job and takes a step back and just lays the foundation, that's still not enough. But here's some stats from his finals game where they didn't get the win.
Yeah, so for me, and Timmy brought it up earlier, and I completely agree with him. I think a lot of people sort of look at his stats from the weekend, no try assist, no line break assist, and go, oh, that's a shit performance by half.
He was a passenger.
Yeah, which I just, it's just insane. Like you even look at he had 20 more touches of the ball than Trindle.
Because his job was to lead them out of their own end and then give Trindle the ball going in over. Anyway.
Yeah. So in this game, his team wins convincingly. Like as you mentioned, there was a few opportunities that could have been more convincing. I still thought it was a convincing win by them. Hines doesn't come up with the stats. Everyone bags the shit out of him. The last 2 years in finals, like those 3 games, he had 7 try assists across those 3 games in finals. And everyone's saying he can't play big games. He's like, if you want to sit on one side of the fence, sure, but fucking stay on it.
Yeah.
Don't jump from side to side and pick and choose what narrative suits.
Yeah. Like
it's bullshit.
It's like, so he plays really well. So for example, his game against the Roosters last year where they lost by a point, he had 2 line break assists, 2 try assists, and he ran for 169 metres, and they didn't get the win. And what did everyone say? They said, it doesn't matter about his stats. It's the 7's job to get the win. Who gives a shit? The only stat that matters is the win. So he comes into this final series, and because, yes, granted, is Hines a little bit down on form? Yeah, he's a little bit down on form. Is he playing as good as his Allianz year? Yeah, of course. Like, he's not. But it doesn't mean he's playing poorly. He's just playing solidly. Anyway, so he comes into this final series, and he does a role where it's basically, put it this way, I think Craig Fitzgibbon put this role together purposely, but we'll get to that in a sec. He plays his role for the team. They get the one stat that everyone's been clamouring for the last couple of years, and all of a sudden, because he didn't have 3 try assists and kick for 700 metres and a line break, it was a passenger's game. It's just like, the bloke can't win.
You can't just keep moving the goalpost to bag Nico.
Yeah, it's because it's cool to do that now.
It's fundamentally fucking stupid.
Yeah, it's cool to do that now. Like, for example, you put in the headline, Nico on $1 million isn't not worth. You put Nico Hines' name in a headline, it gets clicks. So you jump on the narrative that's being created that he should be this, he should be that. Timmy, what are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, pretty infuriating in the. I cannot believe there was negativity around or like any criticism around Nico's performance in this. And it goes like, I think the casual observer out there at times can look at stats and the stats come up at the end of the game. And Nico Hines, he fills the stat sheet. He always does. And he's known, he gets so many touches. He often has the last pass. He gets a lot of try assists, line assists. In this game, he didn't. He played a lot of the time in attacking territory, that first receiver role. And as you said, it was Braden Trindle who the dynamic of the halves, it changed again, and we didn't know what it was going to look like, how these two could get the best out of each other and for their team. Trindle was the one sweeping both sides and playing off Nico, and it worked perfectly. Just about every try that they scored, Nico Hines was the one throwing the ball and creating the space for Trindle to weave his magic. Now, he doesn't get the try assist for it. He doesn't get the line break assist for it, these sorts of things. But, mate, he was... I'm not going to say as influential as Trindle because this was probably the best game of Trindle's career, but he did a perfect job for them. And look at the result. Like, how could you not be impressed with that? Because the stats don't say that he killed it, people go, oh, they become critical. Like, it's the biggest load of rot I've ever seen. I was so happy to see both Nico and Trindle, but particularly Nico, said is responsible and cops a lot of flack unfairly at times to come out and have a terrific finals performance. And I think anyone who has any question marks around what he did standalone on the weekend is kidding themselves.
Yeah.
And I think as well, like, my biggest concern with these two as a halves pairing all year has been they step on each other's toes. Nico went out there and, okay, my halves partner's got the hot hand. I'll do what I need to fucking do. Yeah. I'm a halfback. That's what I'm meant to do.
Yeah.
My fullback's got the hot hand. I create space for him.
Well, you always say, Guru, when we allude to like the Cleary and Luai at the Panthers and how selfless Luai is and what he does there, and he plays the foil to Nathan Cleary. Now, I'm not saying that Nico's necessarily the foil to Trindle because that's just the way that the attack panned out this night. But he did take a backseat in attack in the opposition 20, and in a lot of ways, for a bloke who gets ample touches in key attacking territory, he was selfless in this one.
It was great. And the thing is like Trindle absolutely played better than Hines on the weekend. That doesn't mean Hines played poorly. It's bizarre. And what's strange as well is like, okay, so last week he had that one area where he didn't kick out in the full and he didn't play that well. And so the yarn is, it's all, like Hines, it's his fault. It's his team. He's the marquee player, so it's Hines' fault that they didn't get the win. Then they come around the next week, and they get the win, and now it's all Trindle. Trindle's the reason they got the win. It's like, okay, you can't have it both ways. If it's all Hines' fault that they didn't get the win, then you can't go and say, oh, he played poorly in their win. Like you pick and choose your battle here. Like you can't just say, if you're willing to go down the route of like, it is 100% the Sevens' job of whether they get a win or loss. So if you were saying it was Hines' fault they lost last week, you should say it's his fault they won this week. That would be consistent thinking. And that is, like, guys, we're about to get into how good Trindle is. Don't worry, because Trindle was phenomenal. But just quickly on Hines. This is Hines' career so far. Hines, in his first season at the Storm, first full season, went to a grand final. He was on the bench. He didn't get on the field, but he won a premiership. Like, in my opinion, if you're on the bench in a grand final, you win a premiership. And you obviously had a big hand in helping them get there. You win a premiership. His second season with the Sharks, where the year before they came 9th or 10th, he won a Dally M and he took them to second. His third year with the Sharks, they came 5th. He came 3rd in the Dally M's. So he nearly went back-to-back in Dally M's. He technically came 3rd. Drinkwater came 3rd, but he couldn't win it because he got suspended. So on points, he came 4th, but technically he came 3rd. In 2024, before it went behind closed doors, he was 2nd. Now, if you want to say he was getting more votes than he should have, okay, all right, cool. I'll give you that. I'll just say, yep, for the argument's sake, I'll give you that. That's a far cry from saying that he's been playing poorly. Like, you can say he wasn't playing as good as people thought, but to say that he wasn't playing really well from round 1 to 10 this year, that's craziness. He was playing extremely well. That's why he got selected for Origin. And then he gets injured. He comes back. He gets injured. He has the Origin situation, gets injured. Really, he's had about 10 average games. And out of those games, he might have had 2 or 3 poor ones. I think there was a West Tigers one and the Melbourne Storm last week where it was pretty poor. Outside of that, his career has been nothing but unbelievable. And people are already talking about dropping. It's just craziness to me. And also, he's taken a team that when he arrived was 9th or 10th to a prelim now. It's an incredible career. Now, on the flip side, so Hines, the Fitzgibbon. I think if you go back and look, last week, Hines had like 20 plus tackles. This week, he had 20 plus tackles. I think Fitzgibbon intentionally said, Hines, you're going to get targeted all through final series because you're the guy they want to fatigue. So he said, you know what? I want you to swap roles with Trindle where coming out of your own end, because they're not going to be shooting up their line at you coming out of your own end because you're just laying the platform to get out of your own 40. Because people don't realise is Hines actually had more touches. I think it was 20 more touches than Trindle. And where did all those touches come from? A, him being the first pass, but B, him passing out of his own end to make sure that they could get out of their own end. And then once they got past the halfway line, that's when Trindle took over. If you're a defensive team, who are you more worried about because of their form in the last few years coming when they're attacking your line? It's Hines. So that means that Trindle's going to have more space. So I think it was actually a game plan Fitzgibbon. It worked really well. Let's talk about Trindle. Incredible performance. Incredible performance. And not just the flashy stuff. It was the kicking game that was phenomenal. The amount of times, the difference between the Cowboys and the Sharks was you had Hines and Trindle that were willing to be patient, and then you had the Cowboys who were super impatient. As soon as if you actually go back and watch the game, physically the Cowboys dominated the first 20, but they were so impatient when they got down there that they were throwing the ball at the back and it was just going all over the shop. Whereas the Sharks said, you know what we're doing? We're getting down into our set. We're giving the ball to Trindle. We're going to kick into the corner. We're going to kick into Kyle Felt's corner as well. We're going to jam in. We're going to do it again. We're going to jam in. We're going to do it again. And they just rinsed and repeat. It was the combination of Trindle and Hines that was the difference between the Cowboys and the Sharkies.
And you know who would have been the main voice leading that game plan? Give you the hot tip, the halfback.
Yeah. So, I thought Trindle, what I loved about his game is that we actually saw the steady hand side of his game and we saw all the flashy stuff come off. I think sometimes with Trindle, there's games where for every good play, he has 2 or 3 poor plays. This game, he was patient and he waited for the moments to come. And then when the moment arrived, he is so skillful, he nailed it. He absolutely nailed it. I mean, that's why he's our hungriest player of the week, because he was phenomenal. And also the well-rounded nature of his game. Like even little things like, I think it was the McInnes try where he flicked it out the back, I think. Funnily enough, I think the first try they scored, it was actually Hines that flicked it off the ground to keep it going. His kicking game and Hines was kick chasing, their communication with each other. Look, I think personally Trindle is an out and out 7. However, however they need to make it work, if Hines needs to take a back step every now and then, if this is the way it works, then this is the way it works, because if they can get into a prelim this year and keep building towards next year, who knows what they can do?
And that's the whole thing. If they can make it work, and how they do that, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. I've always said, I think Trindle's actually a better halfback. Hines is just a better footballer. If you can just make it work, make them gel. And, if you were to play this game 10 times, I reckon there'd be a heap of times as well where Hines would have the hot hand and Trindle would play that sort of secondary role as well. I think that's what good halves do. I think, looking back at the example over the weekend, if the Melbourne Storm come out this weekend and win 26 points to 18 and Jerome Hughes is quiet and Cam Munster's the best on the field.
What happened last week?
Who's going to back Hughes?
Hughes was relatively quiet, and it was Munster that had the hot hand.
Good half sparing.
Yeah, and everyone was like, "Oh, how smart is Hughes for taking a back step?"
Yeah, it's wild. But yeah, credit to Trindle. It's the biggest game of his career he's had to play so far, and he answered all his critics and was sensational.
So this is Trindle's stats: 2 tries, a try assist, 17 runs, 106 metres, a tackle break, a line break assists. And this is the difference. And this is why I think Fitzgibbon actually had this as a game plan. Trindle made 6 tackles and Nicho Hines made 24. Trindle, 6 tackles, 3 misses. Nicho Hines, 24 tackles and 4. And I think you'll find last week, guess what their stats were again? Their stats were pretty much the same in regards to defence against the Melbourne Storm. They came out 21 tackles from Hines, only 2 misses, 11 tackles from Trindle, 6 misses. So clearly Hines is getting targeted. And that's another part of Hines' games this year has improved his defence out of mind. But yeah, look, this was easily Trindle's best game of his career, and I thought he was electric, absolutely electric. And what excites me with Trindle is that he has a little bit of Cody Walker about him with that ball, that ability to know where the ball is going to bounce, the ability to just those soft hands when he needs it, but he also has a bit of a running game as well, a bit of footwork. Trindle was amazing. And,
it's easy to say, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but, you hear people talk all the time, the ball just bounces to these guys. The ball bounces to guys that put themselves in the right position consistently.
Yeah.
And Trindle's got just that understanding.
He's just got it. He's got it. It's not an accident.
Yeah.
It happens because of reps on reps on reps, training on training on training, and Trindle for me was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, and just leaning into that guru about being in the right position, the thing that stuck out for me, in particular the first sort of 20 to 30 minutes of this game, it was just desperation of the Sharks. And I hate using this term, but sometimes it just feels right, and they just look like they wanted it more, the Sharkies, in this game. And it was off the back of, I thought the Sharks' kicking game was outstanding. Both Trindle and Nicho, both long and short. Long game, found the deck plenty of times. The yardage was great. The Cowboys hardly had an opportunity to attack in the Sharks half, particularly early on in that first half. But the short kicking game, it was just on point. It was at a perfect distance every time, those sort of bombs from their 40, to give their chasers time to get up there. But the kick chases every time. I think Iro got up for one of the tries. I think Mulitalo got up for another one of the tries just for tap-backs. There was another one that Trindle swept around off the tap-back, off his own kick. They were all desperation plays of just competing. And I find it interesting, like the Knights, and look, they had a great back end of the season, but at times they weren't really contesting their bombs, and they were very passive about it, and they were focused on, making the tackle and keeping down there. And that's fine. And as I said, they had a great back end of the year, so it's hard to be too critical. But the Sharks, I think 2 of their first 3 tries, 3 of their first 4, whatever it was, were off competing these kicks, and they nailed every one of them.
Well, what I think the Sharks did really well, and where I think the Knights need to improve, is the Sharks, they must have a call of the ones they're going to compete for and their ones that they're going to defend. Because the Sharks did put up a lot of just, we used to call them cage kicks, where you just put it in the corner and you want to they put up at least 4 or 5 in the first half where they just kicked it up into the corner and they just jammed up in defence. And I think the Knights, the negative for them is like they always do that. Like they literally never challenge it. Where what I agree with you, mate. What I liked about the Sharks is they chose moments, the right moments. And I think, and this is just off an eye kind of test, I think any time they got probably in the 30, it looked like they go, okay, we're going to compete here.
Let's go.
Anytime they were kicking from like the halfway line or like the 40 line, they said, look, no compete. Let's just get down there, because if you compete and the kick is a really deep one, the chances of you getting there are really small. So if you're rushing to get there and you're not set, usually what happens is you fly through and you leave a big hole behind you. Whereas if it's a shorter one and you're almost rushed, like you're coming into it where you can get yourself set, you're jumping up and down usually rather than just like flying past the kicker. So, yeah, mate, I thought and I think Fitzy deserves a massive rap for the game plan as well. And I think also what I like about the fact that Fitz is in a prelim now is he's made no secret of the fact that he is building with this roster, that this roster is improving year on year. Like, he even in the press conference talked about how he felt they kind of weren't even ready for finals footy in the first year of his, tenure as a coach. Yep. He said the second year they learned a lot of lessons. He said heading into this year he felt a lot more ready for finals footy.
And just adding to before we move on from him, but just the Nico love in this one. We're all just so stoked for him that he got up in a finals game. Not say he hadn't in the past, but just to win. To win, as you said, to get the monkey off the bat for the Sharkies and for Nico in general. But his goal kicking's really gone overlooked this season, I think, by myself included. But he nailed one from the right touchline from his bad side, an important kick, never looked like missing. Sort of went back and had a look at his stats. I'm like, he's been pretty good this season. Essentially, he's got the best kicking percentage of any player in the NRL this year, goal kicking. He's 86% for the year from 60 conversions. The only player better, Reece Walsh, was actually at 90%, but that's from a third of the kicks with 18. So, essentially, the best goal kicker in 2024, 86%.
Wow. Yeah. And so, mate, what is exciting is that heading into this year, we're all a bit divided on, can this halves pairing work? Like, Trindle is an out-and-out 7. He's grown up as a 7. Hines is a 7-6 fullback. Like, he can kind of play anywhere. I think, if I'm being honest, and I thought he played well on the weekend, I think the biggest pressure is not actually on the 6 and 7. It's actually on the fullback position. I think if you're going to look at somewhere where you go, probably need a little bit more from them if they are to take that next step, is probably Will Kennedy. And although I thought he was good on the weekend, and I think last week against the Storm, he obviously started quite poorly. He had a relatively quiet year. I remember 2 years ago he was incredible. He had a relatively quiet year. I think that's the position where they're probably going to need Kennedy to take a step up. Or I think in the off-season there'll be a bit of pressure from Atkinson to have that role. Whether you put Hines or Atkinson there, I'm not sure. I think it should be a battle between Kennedy and Atkinson. But I think that's probably the area there could be a bit of pressure on.
I agree with you. I think the other one to throw in there, and only because they've got so much depth, I think Ito could be a shout there as well.
At fullback?
Because you got Talakai that can play centre as well. I think,
Is his ball playing? What's his ball playing like?
I mean, it's not like top class, but neither is Will Kennedy's. At least he'll bring a bit more punch coming back.
This bloke's Iro love knows no bounds.
No knows bounds.
Fullback.
Wow. He's played a lot there in reserve grade and stuff.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I haven't seen his ball play at fullback, so I'm just... He doesn't look to me.
But it's not like you're losing ball playing.
You don't reckon? No, I think Kennedy's a much better ball player than Ito.
Oh, sure, but like, is anyone sitting here going, Will Kennedy's got the ball playing ability to really break a game open? Like,
I think that's his asset. Honestly, I think Will Kennedy ball playing is like his major strength. I actually think they're right. I think they're flipped in regards to like what you would lose in ball playing with Ito, you would gain with his ball running. So I think if with Ito, you'd be more looking at like a Dylan Edwards fullback kind of type of fullback.
For sure.
Whereas Kennedy, that's probably my biggest. If I had a knock on Kennedy, it's the fact that his ball running is not. He doesn't bend the line.
Also,
ever.
With Iro at centre, he's one of the best yardage centres in the game. He runs for his 160, 180, even 200 metres at times from centre. As you said, that'd be his strength at fullback. You're almost getting it at centre.
Yeah. I tell you what. Speaking of Iro, mate, his defence on the week, his hit and stick was unbelievable. He was... Talk about... Again, I think Craig Fitzgibbon deserves a lot of raps. There are not many coaches that would take Talakai out of the starting side and put a guy like Ito in there as a rookie when statistically, I think even still Talakai had more average metres than Ito. And yet Fitzgibbon made that call. Like, honestly, I think it only the top tier of coaches would have the guts to go, you know what, I'm going to take away Talakai, who's a weapon. I think last year he had the most try assists of any centre in the competition.
Talakai played 16 minutes on the weekend.
That's crazy. And, like, he's a gun. Like, he's so important to that
so
side.
Good.
So, yeah, Ito for me, he was phenomenal. And, like, some of his defence, the amount of times blokes would fall off the tackles that he just hit and stuck like glue was amazing.
I know it's, comparing apples and oranges to some extent, but even this year, Will Kennedy, like, he's had 8 try assists at fullback, 25 games. Iro's had 10 at centre. I don't think you'd lose that much personally, but...
How many in his, like, so this is Ito's best year, in Will Kennedy's best year, how many try assists do you reckon he would have had?
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's also Ito's only year.
Yeah, respectfully, I don't think Ito's ball playing's anywhere near Kennedy's.
I'm not saying it's... I just don't think you'd really lose that much. I think Will Kennedy's done very little ball playing this year.
Okay. I thought Ito's defence was unbelievable. I think he's found a home there. I think that the specialist centre that he kind of brings as well. Like, I think that that's a very underrated part of his game. Like, for example, a Jesse Ramian, like him coming. I know he missed one tackle, only one. Timmy doesn't like that shit. Timmy doesn't like missed tackles.
He's got to get it out of his game.
But on the weekend, like, it showed how important Ramian is to the side as well. Like, he takes tough carries. He makes relatively good reads most of the time. And, a centre pairing of Ito Ramian, like, that's a bloody good centre pairing. It's not going to break. It's not going to break the bank. It's going to give you 150 to 200 metres a game. It's going to be strong in defence. It's going to have a good catch and pass. Heading into the try line. I thought they were great.
Just to counter Kennedy Iro.
Can I just throw out there too?
Yeah.
I threw her out as a third choice possibility. I feel this is going down a really bad track, but proceed.
You know how much me and us as super coaches dislike try assists on NRL.com on Fox that reward them, in my opinion, way better, 14-5 to Kennedy. Okay. Because every time Iro just tips onto anyone, it's a try assist. I'm like, please.
Atkinson lost man though. I think Atkinson and him will be battling the fullback position heading into next year. I think that's where Fitzy is probably going to look at and go, like, if there's one, like, and I feel bad because, like, I think Kennedy was good on the weekend. He's just had a little bit of a quiet year. I think Fitzy's probably going to be saying heading into next year, mate, there's a bit of pressure on this role. I need you to really have it rip in and have a big season. I think it's Kennedy's to lose. Like, I don't think that he should be heading into next year going, I've lost my spot. However, if I'm Fitzy in the preseason, I would probably be trying to train Atkinson there quite a bit, so that when I go into the trial matches, I would give Atkinson the first crack at the fullback position, as in the first trial, not the first crack as first grade.
What was Atkinson through the grades, the lower grades?
Of everything.
I'm pretty sure in Newtown he played a bit of fullback.
He did play some fullback, but he's jumped around all over the place. What about Hines at fullback? Is that?
I think he's a bloody good 6 or 7. Like, I know a lot of people like him at fullback. I think at the very least he's a 6. Like, I think you just need him around the ball as much as possible.
I tell you what, hasn't it changed the outlook on the Sharks? We've sat here all season going, Trindle, Nico, they're just not quite working as a pairing. What's the best dynamic? It's only one game. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. But it was a finals game.
And they're in a prelim.
Yeah. If they can recreate that dynamic, and whether they win or lose on the weekend, but they look good and they look efficient, it changes a lot about the Sharks.
I'll just say too, like, and it's something that, no one really cares about, but I was thinking about the other day, like, that try that Trindle scored in that game, like, 20 years ago, wingers weren't scoring tries like that.
Yeah, I know.
In that game, the left edge ball player scored going over the sideline,
holding the ball like
hand out,
end of an egg, like,
and no one said anything.
Yeah.
It's like it's just stock standard,
just expected. And like the fact that like he shouldn't be, if he's practicing them at training, that's outrageous. He should, bro, go work on your kicking.
Not to mention he kicked the ball.
I know, incredible. Like Trindle's performance, like, unbelievable, so good. And again, like, it's not just, usually when you see a performance of 2 tries, a try assist, you don't get all the other stuff. It was 2 tries, a try assist, plus one of the best kicking games of the fucking weekend.
Were you guys practicing any shit like that when you were playing?
It was just coming in as I was
coming in?
Yeah, but when I started, no way. It was, the most stuff you practice is just like trying to get over people and catch them with.
I suppose the other thing in your day, the corner post was in play, so it just couldn't really happen.
I thought you were going to have a crack at him there. Oh no, he's being genuine.
I thought about it, I'll be honest.
Got to speak about him, the big fella Toby Rudolph. What a game! And for a guy that he's a good first grade forward, but he's not in the top tier. And, a lot of forward packs he would struggle to probably make. And so what I loved about the Toby Rudolph, he had such a poor start at least against the Storm. He came back on, he was a bit better. And because he's such a charismatic character kind of guy, sometimes you can think those guys don't have that competitive edge in them or that competitive nature to really take a tough loss on the chin and internalize it and want to pay the boys back because they're such a happy-go-lucky. And what I loved about Toby Rudolph's performance, it showed you last week hurt him. It hurt him. It meant something to him that he didn't play that well. It was easily the best game of his career. And what a moment to have it in. Look at the forward pack he's playing against. And he was probably the best forward on the field, at least in the top three. He's going up against a forward pack with Origin players in it, and he won the battle. What a great knock from Toby Rudolph.
And I'll be honest with you, that was my concern coming into this week. Does he have the mentality to bounce back from that? And he certainly did. He was incredible. I also love seeing, mate, the Newtown Jets are into the grand final. All the Sharkies boys are on the hill.
Yeah.
Like that over the other day. Unreal scenes.
Mate, the Sharkies are in a good spot. So they're in Flegg, was it? Flegg Grand Final, New South Wales Cup Grand Final, and a prelim.
Yeah. Doing well.
Yeah, 160 metres on the weekend, Toby Rudolph. It was his most all year. He's only gone over 140 metres twice this season. He went for 149 back in round 25 against the Dragons. He's only gone for over 100 sort of 6 or 7 times. But the 160, based on yardage alone and metres alone, clearly his best game of the season. And
I just shows you what you're capable of. I'm sure guys like Toby sometimes have doubts, being an NRL player that's not necessarily top tier, but also not a fringy, he's not a fringy.
Yep.
Sometimes you can have doubts, especially when you're looking at the team sheet and you're going, Taumalolo, McLean, Nanai, Lukey, and you're going, shit, this is pretty much an Origin forward pack. You can question yourself, and that takes a lot of mental fortitude to go, nah, you know what? I am fucking good enough. I can fucking rip and tear and take to these blokes. I
posted the other day about him having a good game, and the first comment was, good effort considering he had his hands on his hips the whole time. I just thought, what the fuck are we doing?
Oh, that's
the
great.
Internet, eh?
The internet's outrageous. It is outrageous. So I thought Toby Rudolph was outstanding. I thought McInnes. What I love about McInnes and the way he plays is just how safe he usually is most of the time with that little tip-on that they do.
Yep.
Just the amount of times where, it'll be Hines, it'll be Trindle that will go to line, or even another forward, and they just get that little tip-on, and he doesn't necessarily make a line break or even half a line break, but it's just enough to get that set rolling. They use it all the time with McInnes.
And they'll use it more with AFB too.
I think that'll be vital to any sort of success against Penrith. Those little tip-ons and just a bit of shape around the ruck. Anything one off that they do against Penrith Pack and the two blokes on your chest right now, Kempy, they'll just get belted. They need that bit of shape around the ruck, and McInnes will be key to it.
The only thing, I had to be a little bit nitpicky with the Sharks, is sometimes they don't identify quick play the balls quick enough, and they're almost too structured. So, for example, they'll do a 2-pass, and they'll get a bit of a quick play the ball, and instead of just going, oh shit, quick play, let's go, like the Storm do so well, they just stick to their process. They go, okay, we the set is called a red set, and we're supposed to do another 2-pass, therefore we're going to do it. I think if they are to, challenge the Panthers, which I think the Panthers obviously red hot favourites, it will be tip-ons, but then identifying, oh shit, we've got to quick play the ball. Everyone needs to go. Everyone needs to be up flat, ready to go. But we'll get to that in the preview. But yeah, McInnes for me, incredible. And again, I feel almost guilty because all year I've been sitting here going, I don't think the Sharks get enough raps for what they're doing. I really like what they're building there. I like what Fitzy's doing. They look better than last year. They look like they've just been slowly building on this, squad rotation of 3 or 4 years. And then when it gets to the final hurdle, I back the Cowboys. I just thought the Cowboys were going to go on a bit of a run, and I thought on paper they just had too much. But here's what I want to mention, is they're the only team left in the competition, and even on the weekend, I'm pretty sure, have no Origin players that are in the starting Origin side. So you go, Hines was there because of injury, McInnes there because of injury. Then you look across the Roosters. Obviously, they've got Connor Watson there at full strength. Lindsay Collins there at full strength.
Angus Teddy.
Angus there, Teddy. Okay, you could say Teddy, he's not there at full strength anymore. Then you look across to Penrith Panthers. Obviously, they got their Origin players. Then you look to Melbourne Storm. You've got Munster. You've got Coates at full strength. He would be there if he wasn't injured. Harry Grant as well. And so, like, that's why I think the Sharks deserve a massive rap, because when you look on paper, we spoke about it in the green room, like, they have a lot of players that are in, like, the top 5 to 8 in their position. They actually don't have that many players that are in the top 3 of their position.
Yeah.
And they're going into a prelim final in the last 4 teams with 0 starting squad origin players. They deserve raps for this, with a rookie coach in his 3rd year.
I think that's the big thing, the rookie coach that people forget about. And, it's all good and well to say he's come from Roosters system and whatnot, but fuck, how many highly touted coaches come in and flop? Like,
and also, like, people are like, rookie coach is in his 3rd year. Look, I'd consider a rookie coach at least 3 to 5. Like, I think maybe next year is when he can start saying he's not a rookie coach, but first 3 years of your career as a coach, in my opinion, you're pretty much a rookie.
Yeah. And to make finals all 3 years
is incredible. It's amazing. With a roster, it's not like he took over this fucking mental roster. He took over, the current roster there's got, a lot of them played in Newtown together, and he's built them through. Timmy, thoughts?
Oh, yeah, phenomenal. And look, it's find themselves in a grand final qualifier. Yeah, they're going in as heavy underdogs, but who knows? Strange things have happened. If you can take them to a grand final, it'd take a monumental effort. But the biggest thing for me, boys, sort of looking back at the game, is just, even if they do go play against Penrith and get towed up and their season's over, firstly, a prelim final is a tremendous result. Just the monkey, as you sort of alluded to at the start of the segment, Kempy, but just the monkey off the back. Yep. For future finals games, they've done it. Jeez, it relieves a lot of pressure for them, that win on the weekend.
Massive. Anyone else stand out for you, boys?
No, but just on Craig Fitzgibbon as well, like, as you said, like, rookie coach, finals first 3 years, like, you got to remember as well, like, he's the one that jumped on the phone and convinced Nico Hines to leave Melbourne and come there.
Well, remember when the Broncos were actually interested, but they lowballed him.
Yeah, right. And, he convinced Dale Finucane to come up. He made all these big plays.
He also had Finucane retire middle of the year as well.
It's true. Yeah.
Like, that's you're literally most experienced forward gone.
Yeah, AFB now, he's been convinced to go over there the way that he used Talakai. For me, the big one, and, I complained about it for years. I'm sitting here for the last 2 years on this show. You all thought I was going fucking mad. Pick Hero. He has to be there. Fitzgibbon just took his time, waited, very similar to Craig Bellamy. He's picked the right moment, and he's been incredible.
Yeah, outstanding. Is he eligible for Rookie of the Year?
I think he is, despite this being his 3rd year of first grade.
Wow. Wow. Ella, what do you think of the Sharkies?
I thought when the G train broke down, I thought it was a bad omen for them. So I thought they were not going to win. But no, yeah, they impressed when I was obviously at the Swans. But checking the score update, seeing them score another try. And I watched the mini afterwards. They were very impressive. Big challenge ahead for them this week, though.
I know, huge challenge. Before we move on, anyone else stand out to you, boys?
All good, mate.
I thought Mulitalo was pretty good.
Yeah, Mulitalo was good. I think we've just about covered it.
Okay, now onto the Sharkies. Onto the Cowboys. Whew. What a disappointing way to go out. And unfortunately, I tell you what, the nugget of wisdom that Cameron Smith told me years ago about, you usually, not all the time, but you usually play your last game the way you've played your season. And by God, wasn't that a Cowboys performance?
Yep.
Coming in red hot, swagger about them, this attacking juggernaut, roll up, and it's 24-0 at halftime, or whatever it was, 20-0, whatever it was, a massive deficit. Come out in the second half, score first set, and you go, what the hell is going on here? Look, they're lucky they got obviously that week 1 win, because that kind of goes over the cracks a little bit. However, the really disappointing thing for the Cowboys is look, if they had a loss to the Sharkies in a tight affair, you could kind of just go, yeah, okay, Sharkies are in the top 4, I get it. But it's the way they went out that is really concerning with the roster they've got. I think Todd Payton's on the money. They need to evolve as a squad. They need to get, they need to enjoy the gritty, tough, really monotonous stuff way more. They need to be patient, because I couldn't believe how frustrated they looked almost immediately. Because if you actually go back and watch it, the first 10 minutes, or at least the first 5 minutes, they were winning the field position battle, and they were winning the physical battle. And it looked like the Sharks couldn't hold on. Like, the Sharks were at 7-6. Like, they were just completely dominated through the ruck. they'd get down there and they just looked panicked and frustrated and a really disappointing way to go out. I think it's a satisfactory year for the Cowboys, but there's a lot of work to do because, you know, at least with the Sharkies, you can look at the roster and go, look, they need a forward here, they need this here. Like, what else could you possibly give the Cowboys?
And I'm like, for me personally, mate, I look at them heading into next season, like, losing Val Holmes and Kyle Felt. It's going to be tough to... I know they've got young guys up there, but you're losing a lot of experience there as well. Like, if not your two most experienced, two of your top three, they're in a very interesting spot, the Cowboys, and isn't it crazy to be disappointed in a team that wins a second half of a finals game, 18 points to 2?
But it's like so Cowboys.
It's so Cowboys, yeah. What do we didn't really talk about it. What do we think of the penalty try? Where'd you sit on it?
Look, I actually think they got off on it. I think that at the very least it was 10 in the bin. I'm happy. I was happy with the penalty try, but I actually think that they probably should have got 10 in the bin. Like, if you want to go down the route of he definitely wouldn't have got there, or you weren't sure where to, because it doesn't have to be definitely anymore. I think it's like if they think probably.
I think that's the thing that a lot of people at home missed as well.
It changed a few years ago. So it's not like without a doubt they would have got there. It is if you think that he probably would have got there. I actually think they got off with I'll tell you what, any coach in the league would way rather give up try up than lose Cotter for 10 minutes. That's I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think it was a penalty try. I think there was enough doubt there that I think it was did and would have got across and got to that ball. I think it was a huge call to call it a penalty try. That being said, I do agree, Kempy, with the sentiment that you nearly prefer to give up the try to lose a player like Cotter for 10 minutes that early in the game. You're just on the back foot from there onwards. Like, it's a lot of every player's put in a bit extra work for that 10-minute period in a finals game. Geez, it can gash in the back end. So somewhat got away with it, but I don't think it was a penalty try.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought it would have been, for sure.
Penalty try.
I thought he had enough momentum.
I think, mate, if you have a look, like I slowed it down in real slow motion. Like, when the ball sits up, in the time it's in the air, Dearden takes 3 steps. Like, Trindle would have got it.
Well, Trindle had momentum.
Yeah, Trindle had the momentum.
He was already moving before Dearden even hit his speeds. I think he definitely would have got there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
As I said, I think that, like, you know, I understand Cowboys fans, you want to be frustrated, 50-50, whatever. Mate, Cotter just shouldn't have done it. Like, it was a silly play by Cotter. He knows every day of the week that's going to be either 10 in the bin or a penalty try. And he could have easily pulled out of that.
As you said, if it wasn't a penalty try, it's 10 in the bin, well, still a terrible result. So
yeah.
Like, look, if they had gone in the half and it was bloody 6-4, I could maybe see your argument of like, tough call or whatever. Mate, it was like, what was it, 24-0 or something? Like, what was it, 24-4?
22-0.
22-0. Like, if they scored 22 points.
24-0, sorry.
So
I think it was their third tries.
No,
I think it was the first try.
Oh, sorry, it was the first try. Sorry.
Yeah, if they can score 24 points with 13 players on the field, what do you reckon they would have done with 12?
Yeah.
Yeah. And not only is it you lose one player, you lose your best defensive player, like the heart and soul of the franchise, essentially.
Mate, I think they got off light, to be honest. I really do. And I tell you what else turns my frown upside down. 22 minutes, no penalties, no restarts. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why? Why do we do this to ourselves? It was the best. How good was the footy with no bullshit penalties, none of that. And ironically, then we get into the next game and it started well where there was no penalties, but then they blew the pee out of the whistle and you're just going, what's doing? I love the fact that there was, put the whistle away. It was the least amount of penalties since...
So I went and had a look at round 27 a few weeks ago. On average, you had 10 penalties per game in that one. The least amount of penalties in a game was 7. Next was 9. In this game, there was 4. It's the least amount of penalties in a game since Origin 1, which, as you might remember, I know I certainly fucking do, had a send-off in the opening. 7 minutes.
But what I don't understand is, like, and look, I do respect that Graham Adams, he gets up there and he faces the press, and I really do appreciate that he does that. But, like, how can you sit there aghast and, like, almost affronted that people are complaining about refs and decisions and penalties when you get to finals in Origin, you just put the whistle away?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that the most telling? Like, how can you be like, oh, I can't believe everyone's blowing up about this penalty or that penalty or how the game's being reffed, when every year we get to finals footy and the whistle gets put away? That's you saying...
It's the premium product and it needs to sell.
Yes, like what? Yeah. Anyway.
Like, if you look at the Sharks, they've conceded the second most penalties this season.
Well, Roosters were the most penalised and they bloody got a lot of the penalties.
Yeah, I think they realised there was too few.
Yeah.
in that first one.
So they, you know what? Let's just anyway. Okay, to the Cowboys though, we already speak about it a little bit, but devastating way for Kyle Feldt to go out. Even Val Holmes, they reckon it looks like I think a broken leg, which is actually a good sign rather than it being Achilles. Devo that Kyle Feldt, that's the way he ends his career though. Deserved better, unfortunately.
So shit to see.
Oh,
It was just, especially like.
at least he got that last week, you know.
Yeah, for sure. But even like just to say, like if it was going out in a try scoring situation like that, you know, it still sucks. But to go like a forward pass like that like he just didn't even need to go for it. You know what I mean? Like it's awful. But yeah, he's been a champion of our game and has achieved so much. You know, despite not being one of the greatest players of all time, he's always just going to have that moment in history.
Yeah,
incredible.
And I'll tell you what, to Cowboys fans, he's had many moments too. I mean, even last week, you know, Knights have got him on the racks. Got him on the rack, and KP's stepping everyone out of their own boots, and then boom, Kyle Feldt just sticks that big mid out.
Yeah.
See ya.
Well, I said last week, I don't think Cows win that game without Kyle Feldt last week.
Yep.
With those couple of big plays. So, yeah, there's a disappointing way to go out. A few poor defensive reads in there, and I think he'd improved his defensive reads a fair bit this season, but look, terrific career, so plenty to hang his hat on.
Mate, he's improved so much over the last few years in so many aspects.
Especially his defence.
His defence, but also just his meters coming out of his own end.
Yeah.
He used to be I'll stand out here and put the ball down
try,
for you. And he completely flipped that on its head.
Yeah. I thought Jake Clifford had a bit of a mixed bag. I thought that, you know, I didn't want to be Debbie Downer. Shout out Debbie. But I did think we were getting a little bit caught up in that one game when he came in for Chad Townsend. Not like we were getting caught up, but I think that, you know, heading into the finals footy, I felt like Cowboys fans were just almost like, yeah, Clifford will kill it. But he hadn't really done that yet, and that was a big question heading in, like, as a 7. He had some moments that were actually quite good, but he did have 3 errors. Yeah, I didn't think that he had probably his best game, Clifford, unfortunately.
He played like a halfback that's come into a new side 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's disappointing. However, the good thing is he's played well enough that at least heading into next year, more runs on the board with Dearden. You can spend a whole preseason together. I think that it'll put him in good stead to start the year really well. And if this halves pairing can click, it's so important for the Cowboys because they can be together for at least another 5 years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's a good player, Clifford. He's got a lot to offer. Do you look into the future? Is Clifford definitely the halfback and Dearden 5'8"?
I'd say so. I'd say so, but you know, it just depends on how Clifford takes that opportunity. Really, and also like what Dearden wants to do. He's so good at 6. You know, do you overcomplicate things by putting him at 7? I'm not sure.
I like it. I reckon a full preseason together as a pairing, like a starting pairing. Such a big boot on him, Clifford. He's got that big, long kicking game. We know how important that is. Good short kicking game as well. He's a solid body, so he should be a good defensive player, especially, again, when he gets his combinations with the people outside him in defence. That'll go a long way. He's not locked into it, but I do like the prospects for those two as a halves pair. As I said, it does also free up Dearden for his running game and all that too.
When you mentioned his long kicking game too, like the other one's got the long kicking game, Scott Drinkwater too is unreal. Like if their game could just be built around their kick chase and their line speed like Penrith is, they'd be a handful. There
was a few fullbacks this year that really took their kicking game to a new level, like KP, Reece Walsh, Drinky, playing massive roles.
Let's talk about him, Scotty. Drinkwater. I love him as a player, but unfortunately, just was not it for him. I don't know what happened. Even this season, he's just been really up and down. It's been a weird year for Scotty Drinkwater because he's had his moments of absolute brilliance, but I thought on the weekend he was quite poor. It was one of his not good games.
Yeah, I agree. It was frustrating that moment. I think the play went out to the left side. There might have been a knock on, and
they threw it back in
at the ref. And I know it's just a little thing, but finals footy, you just got to play the whistle.
But that was, I get that they were frustrated because I'm pretty sure they were getting beating substantially then. But lock in, lock in.
Well, the Cowboys this season, they've been, it's cliched, but there just weren't enough, if any, 80-minute performances. And, they essentially lost this game in, let's say, the first 30 minutes when that third try came down and it went to 18-0 and it was like, it was always a long, long way back from that. and they've just had too many tendencies to fade in and out of games and in and out of games. And as you sort of alluded to it before, Kemby, but just finding that bit of backbone, that bit of grit, to even when, things aren't necessarily going your way or you come up against the gun side, just hanging in contests. We saw last week, Penrith knocked the Roosters off base in that first 20 minutes, exploded out of the blocks. It was similar in this one. Yeah, the Sharks were terrific, but they just didn't look as desperate. They didn't look like they'd turned up that first half hour, and it was game over pretty well.
You mentioned before, like looking at this Cowboys pack, it's like a state of origin pack. Are they lacking just one sort of explosive guy? Like I look at you've obviously got the two edge players, but then outside of that, now that Tamalolo isn't at his absolute best, like we've seen previously, like are they just a little bit up and down through the middle?
I like McIntyre. I think he can be the man.
I love McIntyre.
I want more minutes than McIntyre. That's what I want. Like I would like to see him become almost one of their key forwards.
I think yes.
I don't think he's a game breaker though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's a guy that can.
I do. I'm with you. I think all season they've just lacked that a mobile middle to sort of complement Ruben Cotter, who already plays big minutes, but like Taumalo and McLean, they do their job. They're solid. Taumalo, sure he's powerful, but he's certainly not what he once was with all his injuries. Luke and I on the edges, there's strike there, but just through the middle, I think they just need someone coming. And look, maybe can be that McIntyre can be that man next year, but just somewhat of almost a Cotter clone, a smaller bodied, agile.
Yeah, see, I would like to see basically split up McLean and Tamalolo, not have them on at the same time, and McIntyre be the main man through the middle. He's super mobile, super fit, gets through a mountain of work, and then on the edge, they've got guys like Harrison Edwards coming through. Finny Fuaki, I know he's leaving, so there'll be another young guy that come through. But like a guy like Harrison Edwards, like he's not huge. He's not huge. I just think that like the days of Tamalolo and McLean together as a front row on at the same time, I reckon that's probably gone. And I would give more minutes to McIntyre and use either McLean as Tamalolo as like 20 to 30 minutes of just pure hell.
So even when you line these two teams up and you look at their benches, like I look at the guys Sharkies have on their bench, so I think a guy like Sifra would be perfect, Hazelden, a guy that can just disrupt what's going on out there. I think they've got too many just battlers that just put their head down and just do their very best, which, it obviously can be successful, but I think if they are to take that next level, I would love to see them go out. Like, and I know he's been inconsistent, and I wouldn't have picked him for this game either, but like even like a Tom McHaley up there, who's got a bit of an offload, he's got a bit of a, tackle breaking ability, fast feet.
But even the smaller body, like the Dogs have got a plethora of them, of those, whether it's a Kurt Mann or a Bailey Haywood, or they just offer a bit extra. They're fit as a fiddle around the ruck. I like that as well. Just one. And it's not saying they maybe don't have it in an Edwards, or maybe not Edwards, but a McIntyre, but I'm with you, Roo. I think that's what they've sort of lacked.
I'm just trying to 20. No, I think McIntyre could be that man. I really do. I think that at 26 years old, I think he's getting more confident, and I think he's got enough explosiveness that he'll be able to like add a bit to the pack. And also, Reece Robson can run the ball more too, I think. That's where I go, if you want to get explosiveness, get someone on the bench that could play 10, 15 minutes of hooker and just say, Reece Robson, we need you to, we're going to give you a little bit of a break, just go a little bit harder. Because he's got enough explosiveness through the ruck. I'm sure they'd have a young forward there that is coming through that could do the job. But I reckon McIntyre next year, he'll become one of their pinnacle forwards. I think so.
I think he is now.
Yeah, I just, like, what I mean is like starting, like he gets that role of like starting with Tamalolo or starting McLean, where he doesn't have that at the moment.
Yeah.
They need to find they need to find their Max Plath, I reckon.
Like that'll be, and I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think that solves the problem I'm talking about. I look at that, I think they're all very...
See, I think Cotter is Max Plath. He's like, obviously, Max Plath is Cotter. I just think, I think McIntyre, Tamalolo and Cotter is a great three-man middle area with Robson. That's mobile enough for me. McIntyre, Robson, Cotter, super mobile. Tamalolo, big boy, get through the work. But we can see. We'll see next year.
And we're talking about, Kempy, again, to clarify, it was very much a solid and like a pass mark year for the Cowboys. But as Todd Payton alluded to, what's going to take them to the next level to be premiership contenders? Something needs to change, just something's off.
And then that's where I think guys like McIntyre will, like, that's where I think he can be a game breaker. I think that him and Cotter are mobile and explosive enough with Robson to like get that middle just rolling and also deal with the tough stuff as well. Because I think what Peyton was alluding to wasn't necessarily like we need to be more flary. They're not lacking flair in my opinion. They're lacking grit. And that's where I think
they've got points.
Yeah, so that's where I reckon McIntyre's perfect because he's gritty, he's tough.
Yep.
Going to be interesting to what they do with McKaylee next year because there were quite a lot of Cowboys fans that were calling for him to be selected this week.
And as much as I'm calling for a guy like him, I understand why Todd didn't pick him. I get it 100% because I don't think he's been consistent enough yet. He's got these high ceiling moments in him that blow you away, but then week to week, I don't know if I rely on him just yet. But I think a body like him.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Thomas McKaylee is an explosive footballer, offers plenty of X factor off the bench, but like he's 26 years old now. He's been at 3 different clubs in the last 3 years. There's a reason he's not like, it's easy to see the explosive side of him and his offloads and his tackle busting as a forward off the bench, but there's obviously a lot more to it.
Yeah. I think if I'm looking at the Cowboys and what they need, it's not extra flair in the forwards. It's extra grit in the forwards, in my opinion. It's going to be interesting to see what they do recruitment, if they do recruit at all. I mean, Harrison Edwards is an interesting one. He's from the Doggies and he's got a bit about him. Not necessarily, he's not like bloody like Mateo or something, but he's got a bit about him.
He doesn't answer any of our questions that we're looking for here, but Carl Lawton will be an interesting one too, going up there.
He's injury free. He's been.
It's a great sign.
Under the radar
Carl
there.
Lawton. Yeah.
Okay. Don't forget, guys, head up to Grumpy Coffee, 6 p.m. tonight. We are launching, that is right, grumpycoffee.com.au. We've got pods, we've got ground coffee, we've got whole beans, all the good stuff. It's premium, high-quality coffee, guys. And every single purchase puts you in the draw to go to the Levels Golf Day with some of the biggest names in the NRL. You and a mate get to play golf. And if you buy the small stuff, you get 1 entry. If you buy the kilo, you get 3 entries. And also, it is free shipping to anywhere in Australia, and it's capped at $10 anywhere in the world. Alrighty, don't forget to catch the NRL finals on KO this week. Every game is now do or die. Hit the prelims. Friday night, it's Storm v Roosters. Saturday night, it's Panthers v Sharks. Catch the games live and ad-free during play on KO. Massive thank you to KO for partnering with the show. Alrighty, Roosters defeat Manly 40-16. We'll get Roo to start this now. Roosters defeat Manly 40-16, and I tell you what, this is the Roosters I wanted to see last week. Matter of fact, like I know this didn't happen, but the difference between last week and this week, it feels like last week they were playing possum. That's how different. Like it felt like they were going into that game going, you know what? Like it's a tough game. Let's just focus on the week after where there's a game that's much more manageable. I know that didn't happen, but that's how substantial the difference was. Now, I think everyone lifted their game. All the forwards across the board, if they were 6 out of 10 last week, they went to 7 or 8 out of 10. And I know this is a very specific thing, but I reckon that the key difference for me, it was Joey Manu, in my opinion. Now, he wasn't man of the match, but just the fact that we saw Joey Manu multiple times on the other side of the field, looking for the ball, taking hit-ups through the middle, offloading. And like when Joey Manu is roaming and having heaps of runs like that from centre, that's when the Roosters are on. And so that's when I see that, it suggests to me that the directive from Robbo was, boys, we just need to be super fast and aggressive through the middle. Because at the start of the game, there was a bit of an arm wrestle going on, and then Connor Watson decided, I'm up in the tempo. Then Joey Manu got in there. Then Teddy got in there. And before you know it, Manly were just on the back foot. They just could not keep up. Matter of fact, I think their first try they scored, where'd they score it? Wasn't on the edges. It was literally a short ball from Teddy to Radley, right under the sticks. What does that suggest to you? That suggests too fast, too powerful through the middle. If the Roosters can play like this next weekend, they are absolutely a chance. I thought it was an outstanding performance by the Roosters. And by God, Robbo needed a win like this. Look, his job wouldn't have been under pressure because of the injuries, but he needed a win like this. If he had gone out in straight sets, even with the injuries, I think there would have been people going, mate, you've got a better roster than that. Great performance by Robbo and great performance by the Roosters.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've obviously been somewhat vocal about them over the last few weeks. When I got to Tuesday, Kempy, and the team list came out, and just seeing Jared's name there, I just went, fuck, I feel so much less confident about this all of a sudden. And, you know, he set the tone early. You know, obviously didn't mean to, you know, to take Kohler off the field, but that's just the sort of intensity that he comes into a game like this with. And I think he had a huge impact on this side as well.
Like, there's no way they're sending out Hargreaves, like, playing poorly. Like, that could have been his last game.
Yep.
If they didn't aim up and have a dig, that could have been his last game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we've sort of said all year, Kempy, that the Roosters need to lean into their power game through the middle. And you sort of mentioned Joey Manu, who I agree. I actually had him in my team of the week at centre, but they did lean into it more. And I did a podcast during the week with Rando, having a look into this game, and sort of said the Roosters have been their own worst enemy at times this year. And I think I use the word complacent because I think there's so many superstars in this team that they have a tendency just to go side to side and expect one of these superstars, whether it be Suli or Manu or Tupu or Young or Teddy, whoever, just to pull something out. And that's fine. They scored like a record number of points for themselves this year, the Roosters. But against the gun top four sides, and in particular the Storm and the Panthers, they didn't have a good record because they just go, let's go side to side, and they just get belted.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that in this game. They went, no, let's be powerful through the middle. As I said, it was bringing Manu even back underneath or letting him roam. It was bringing Sulei back underneath and then going back to that middle corridor. They got the complacency out of their game and they just blew them apart through the guts. And we know they can do that again this weekend when they face Melbourne. And without sort of getting into the preview too much, they need to do it again because they can beat any team, give or take maybe the Panthers, through the middle and be more powerful. They did it and they smashed them.
Yeah. And, like, you look at the Storm, if there is one not a weakness, because like they got a bloody good forward pack that's doing a really good job. But if there is one area where funds haven't been invested in their salary cap, it's their forward pack. Like, whereas when you look at the Roosters, like a lot of their money probably is in their forward pack. And, you know, obviously it wasn't intentional, but the two times they'd obviously knocked out Jake Trbojevic and Kohler, like they were running, they're so big and so strong. They were running so hard that no matter what the defense did, they were going to lose that contact. And the Roosters are one of the very few forward packs that are so big and so strong that no matter what you do, you're probably going to lose the contact when they are running their hardest. Like, Jake Trbojevic never gets knocked out. Like, never. His tackle technique is perfect almost. First of all, though, I want to shout out Kohler. Mate, that's one of the bravest things I've ever seen in my life. That is one of the bravest things I've ever seen in my life. You got Hargreaves coming back 1,000,000 miles an hour. Kohler would be what, you reckon, 92 kilos max?
Yeah, there's not much to him. Yeah.
Not a big guy. The smart thing, and like I'll be honest, if I was a captain, and you can call me soft, you can call me a cat, like whatever, I would be telling my centres, boys, we don't need you to win the contact off the kick because you're not going to win it. And I get it. You're brave. You're tough. And I would just always. It's funny because DC almost alluded to that after the game, where he said like, we got ourselves a bit rolled up rather than, and these things can happen when you do that. And what I got from that, DC didn't say this, but what I got from that was DC almost alluding to, like, we needed to be willing to lose the contact in the first 5 to 10 minutes so that those things didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so if I was a captain of a rugby league team in the NRL, if you're not a front rower and that tackle happens, you don't need to be soft and step out of the way because that is cowardice, but don't try and win the contact, because Kohler was trying to win the contact, which is so brave, so crazy. I would be saying, boys, just fall with the tackle, let them find their front. If they get a quick play of the ball, it is what it is, because centers going into contact like that, you're losing the battle, 8 to 9 times out of 10.
Which to me, it almost just seems obvious, but to these guys that are fucking just out and out competitors, like telling Kohler that, I imagine, would be very tough.
Yeah, it'd be very tough, because he'd almost be saying, what are you saying, I'm soft, like I can't handle it. It's like, no, bro, you're not. You're actually crazy. And this is what makes, rugby league players at an NRL level, most of them, 99.9% have a screw loose. Like, to get into the NRL, even if you think that player, he's such a cat, like, he doesn't run as hard as Hargreaves, I promise you, he's way tougher than pretty much anyone you know. Like, just to get to the NRL.
Oh, mate, it's watching my brother's team in Jersey Flegg, like, you have to have screws loose to still be playing at 21.
It's crazy.
It's a brutal sport.
It's a brutal sport. We're just so desensitized to it. So, Yeah, that opening 20, it set the tone. However, I've got to give Manly raps. I thought they hung on really, really well. As I said, the first try was just purely quick play the ball, quick play the ball, quick play the ball, and then around the ruck. Like, yes, if you're going to sit in a video session and you could go, okay, Lodge, Nathan Brown, did they turn it in? Did they get? But like in reality, like what was Brown and Lodge supposed to do there with Radley hitting that line? Like even if they make tackle, they're probably going to get carried over the line. Like that was purely from the 3 tackles that happened before that.
Also, the in and away through the middle of the field of Teddy at speed there off quick play of the ball, it was so elite. Because I did the same. Like every time there's a try, all right, who's at fault? Who's at fault? Who do we need to hammer here? And it was watching that, I was like, that was so good.
What are you supposed
Teddy.
to do?
Yeah.
Because like the only way Brown makes that tackle is if he's too tight to Lodge. And then obviously then outside him is too tight to him. The only way he's in the right position to make that tackle is because he is doing the wrong thing. Because put it this way, imagine a scenario where he is in front of Radley and Teddy hits out the back. All of a sudden there is like literally half a field because it would have gone him, edge back row, I'd say. 4, 3 defender, which is a half, centre, winger. So if Brown is under the post, that's half a field with 4 people defending it. Like that's crazy spacing. So yeah, I thought Teddy, like we spoke about him earlier, but to count him out, the champion that he is, what I always find strange about Teddy, like I feel like he's never, although people really appreciate him for how good he is, and I think most people will agree he's one of the greatest fullbacks of all time, but I don't really feel like he's got the fair rub of greatness that say a Billy Slater and that has gotten. I'm not suggesting he's on Slater's level, but what I'm saying is that we would never count out a guy like Billy Slater. We would never count out a guy like Minicello. Again, you guys could probably have a better name, like a better memory of that when Minicello was one of the best fullbacks of all time. And yet I feel like Teddy just got counted out for some reason. I never understood it when he's one of the greatest fullbacks of all time, period.
Yeah, I agree. And it's, a year ago we were sitting here going, fuck, I just want to see that ball. He doesn't have to invent ball playing. He's got it. We just need to see it again. And for me, as you said, that ball that he threw to Radley, the ball playing, he ended up scoring the try, but the one to Daniel Tupu, that was a cracker as well.
I'll tell you a stat. So someone messaged me trying to be a smart ass going, like for all the people bagging Tedesco about his ball playing, he's had 22 try assists this year. And I was like, hey, yeah, bruh, check his try assists from the year before and the year before that. And it was like 6 and 9 or something like that. And while you boys are talking, I'll get it up so I can get the accurate number, which is, it proves our point, what we were saying last year, is that we know he has ball playing. Let's see it. Comes into this year, he gets his ball playing right. Look how good he's been.
We nailed Tedesco.
It's like when he sent me that message, I was like, bro, you're literally proving our point. Like no one to this year is saying Tedesco ball playing has been poor. We've been saying it's improved.
Yeah, I used the word before, Kempy, but it was just desensitised. People are desensitised to the brilliance of James Tedesco because he manages to maintain that top level year after year after year. You're just used to it. And then last year, he has a rare down year in a NRL career spanning, 12, 13 years, whatever it might be. And then, the knives come out, the pitchforks come out. But it was even last year, it was a bad year by his standards. It's still a good year. But yeah, never doubt the man.
So this year, he has 17 tries. And he has, I'll get it up, sorry. Okay, so 17 tries, 24 try assists, 24 line breaks. Last year, though, he had 2 less games, so essentially a full season, though. 11 tries, 11 try assists. The year before that, 12 try assists. And he had 9 tries. So that, not 9 tries, 13 tries. I mean, so that just shows you, he did have quite a couple of years where he was a little bit quiet with the try assists. And I think that does come along with the fact that the Roosters had so many injuries that he was just doing everything. I'll just try to get his try assists up here for the years before that, actually.
He just...
Yeah, so he had those 2 down years, and that's where we spoke quite a little bit about the fact that his try assists had gone down, his ball playing had gone down. And then the year before that, he had 22 try assists.
Yeah.
So, he'd proven that he can do it. And he had that, I think, with 19 games, if I'm looking at correctly. And so, yeah, I think what I love about Teddy's performance this year is just showing you that he is a GOAT fullback. He is, if you've got a top tier of top 5 fullbacks, I think he is one of them. If he was to retire today, he would be in my personal top 5 fullbacks of all time.
And if you also and obviously he's been at the Roosters, they're a successful club, et cetera, et cetera. If you go back and look at his early days at the West Tigers.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, better stats then.
Well, I was just having a look. As far as the Dally M award goes, he was in the top 10 for the last 3 years at the West Tigers, and he was the Dally M fullback of the year in 2016. The Tigers.
Yeah. Imagine winning or being in the top 3 from the Tigers.
Wild.
Respectfully.
Well, when it's all said and done, his career's over. You're saying top 5 can be fullbacks, but with what he's done, I think we're talking more top 3.
Top 2 or 3?
There's no in top 2.
Well, him and Minnie is like second. Darren Lockyer is actually my number 1, but I can understand the Billy Slater one, but I would probably go. Like the normal consensus, let's say it's Billy Slater, then I'd go Darren Lockyer, then I would go Minicello or Teddy.
I think Teddy's overtaken Minicello.
Okay.
And I think Minicello's held back because of all the injuries he had, 100%. But I mean, you can't take that away from Teddy as well. I think he is third ever for me.
Yeah, I've got Billy number 1 for sure. What year did Lockie make the switch to fullback?
2005. So he won 2 premierships at fullback, I think.
Yeah.
And then maybe 3 premierships at fullback and 1 at 5'8", I think.
Yeah,
second year.
I want to say Teddy to number 2. I was very young when Lockie did his damage at fullback. I've seen a lot of highlights and watched games back, but unless you're watching them week in, week out, with certainly a sound of mind, when he won in, what was it? When did he win those? 2000 and...
Yeah, so 1990s.
2000.
Yeah, I was 4 and 6, so I'm just I hate sort of judging on when I didn't probably watch him at the time, but...
Yeah.
Teddy or Lockie number 2 and 3?
Well, I think he was pretty much the Australian fullback from a very young age.
Yes, yeah. I think when you're talking about Lockie too, you need to keep in mind, when do guys tend to play their absolute best football? 26, 27 onwards. That was literally the moment he moved out of fullback.
To 5'8".
So everything he achieved was in his years still learning the game.
Yeah, and he was one of the, not the rare, but relatively rare guys that get into the Australian side, fullback, no one takes your spot. You get into the Queensland side, no one takes your spot.
Locked.
And then obviously he moved to 6. There was a year where they sat down all those Queenslanders and said, if you don't start winning, you're gone. And obviously, but he was the captain when the dynasty started for Queensland.
And for me, though, I think that says more about Lockie that, hey, you need to perform. Okay, I'll start the greatest dynasty of all time.
And he had the play that started it with the cut. Yeah. So, but I mean, as I said, Tedesco is one of the greatest fullbacks of all time. It's that simple. In regards to other people's performances, I just want to give Victor Radley a rap because this is the kind of toughness I want to see from Victor Radley. There are many kinds of toughness, but 2 of them are this. It's being a Hargreaves or a Victor Radley that are going out there like absolute maniacs, shotting blokes, just being super aggressive. And I love that. It's part of rugby league. However, the game has kind of unfortunately, it's kind of moved past that. It is so risky. You can't afford to do it. And also with all the HIAs and everything, it's a super dangerous thing to be like that now. And so what I love about this from Victor Radley, this is how you can show toughness in the modern era. It doesn't necessarily, it's not going to be on a highlight reel. You're not going to be shooting out of the line, but to go out there with a broken scapula and play in the forwards, it is not being talked about enough. And it is one of the toughest things I've personally ever seen because, you've got the Cooper Cronk. I think the Cooper Cronk was a bigger break or something like that. It was a bigger or something. But you could make the argument you were out in the halves and there were ways to, get you through the game. Even though what Cooper Cronk did was, historic. Going on in a forward pack like that and then scoring the first try as well, it's mind-blowing. It is mind-blowing.
And running a courageous line like that too. You're asking to be
Nathan Brown. You're running an unders line on Nathan Brown and you got a broken friggin'...
I thought it was really good coaching by Robbo too that you had him coming into this game. You got to remember, he hasn't played through the middle in, I'm going to say 15 odd weeks.
I'll be honest. I was speaking to Matty Johns and I said this is a mistake by picking Radley because he was injured and you're going to be most likely playing him through the middle. And I'll put my hand up. I was wrong.
And I think... And, it's a little bit, depending on how you want to look at it, but I looked at it and went, okay, if I'm picking Radley coming off an injury, I think I'd rather start him. I hate when you see guys coming from injury, they pick him on a bench, they put him on, then you have that risk of you've wasted 2 interchanges. Yeah. I like that they just let Radley go out, do his thing, they played him back through the middle, they simplified his game. I thought he did incredibly well.
Yeah, so brave.
And if it does go to shit and you have to sub him, you only lose one interchange there.
Yep.
Makes a big difference.
Absolutely. So I think he deserves a massive rap for what he did. Geez, I thought Terrell May, I thought he was like watching him as a Manly fan, I'd be pulling my hair out going, just get him to the ground, please. Please just get this friggin' bloke to the ground. Every run, it was like a hand was hanging out. I think he ended up with 4 offloads. Ella, what was your thoughts on Terrell May?
Was honestly, I was just looking then, he made 141 meters. Like not a single one of our forwards made over 100 meters, which was insane. But yeah, the Roosters offloads just absolutely killed us every time. I'm like, tackle around the ball. So yeah, it was very, very painful to watch. That's for sure.
And when I look at Terrell May over the weekend, the big thing for me was he only had to make 17 tackles.
Yeah.
When you only have to make 17 tackles, he's ready to go on attack.
I know this is in a perfect world and easier said than done, but you're like, what do the Cowboys need off the bench? Imagine if the Cowboys had a Terrell May off the bench.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, we're talking that, then absolutely they could use a guy like Terrell May off the bench.
Yeah. He's unbelievable, isn't it? Like the intensity that JWH and Collins start with, and then you go, we're about to get another level of that off the bench in Terrell May. He's not even our biggest X factor off the bench. They've got Spencer Lenny there as well. God, it's a powerful middle.
Yeah.
Is it I know this will be hyperbolic or whatever, but just on paper, is it like the best front row rotation we've seen in clubland?
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, you can never look past the big dogs, but like the rotation off the bench,
like a team of 4. Like we with the Penrith Panthers, like we literally read the numbers out last week. When those two aren't on the field, there is a big drop off. Yeah. It almost gets scary when these guys come on.
It's crazy. It's genuinely crazy. Like, and what I like about it is like when Terrell May comes on, he brings like he's not super fast or anything like that, and he's not super aggressive, but just bends the line every time he runs the ball. I don't know whether he's got a really special ability of like turning his body the right way to like win the contact, but because like even like obviously we had him on the podcast, like he's big, but he's not like giant. But just athletically, he just must be very strong for his size. So, yeah, in regards to power, like you got a Collins, Hargraves, Spencer Leniu, Terrell May. I mean, you're looking at essentially all four of them in their peak could be in Origin. So you're looking at a 4 Origin rotation.
Just on him, May, like when I was in Vegas, I was at their captain's run and the boys were having a laugh after like throwing gridiron passes. And like he threw the best one out of all of them. Yeah. Just a naturally freak. And the ball was just going further and it was cleaner. And I just sat there going, he's just a freak.
Yeah. I mean, that's been his biggest downfall. You know, coming through the grades is like almost being complacent with that talent and then quitting the game, coming back, quitting the game because, sometimes when it comes too easy to you, you get lazy. And obviously when he decided to turn his life around and fully focus in, like this is what we're getting.
Yeah.
Also, just quietly, you'll be buying whispers here and whispers of a rap album from the Roosters boys coming out. You'll be getting that one, won't you, Roo?
Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
I heard Guru
Not really
featured
my
on
wheelhouse.
I heard Guru featured on.
I want a feature. Reach out, boys. I want a feature.
They seem to love that sort of stuff, though.
And I'm down. I'm down with the boys.
I'm not. I'm not cool enough.
I might look like a Magoo, but I'm fucking cool. I'm cool as shit.
I look like a Magoo and Emma Magoo. So.
No, I'm cool, bro. Yeah. I'm cool. Timmy, are you cool?
Well, I didn't think so.
Is Rap Hit Kuma yet?
No, not yet. It's coming. There's this new big guy, Tupac, I think they call him, who's just been released to the local. But I'm not cool, no. But I did have a compliment pre-show from the boys saying that in this hat I look like a surfer. So maybe the tides are turning.
You know what? I'm sure we're going to find at least a surfer or a skater that looks like Timmy that we can because you literally look like everyone.
John Citizen over there.
I tell you what, Connor Watson, what a knock. I remember like him when he came to the Roosters. Remember how it was kind of like, what will he play? Like, if I recall correctly, I think they already kind of had 14 sorted or to a degree. And when I spoke to Connor, he actually spoke quite a bit about playing hooker. And in my head, I was like, oh, that's interesting. It almost feels a little bit late in his career to go, I want to be a good hooker. I want to be a good dummy half. And so, although I believe that he could do it, I kind of was like, a bit strange that all of a sudden you would be looking to become an out-and-out 9 rather than being that utility player. Fucking hell. A bit strange. It's one of the best decisions he's ever made.
Yeah, I had the same concerns. I thought for the Roosters, this is great. For Connor, I don't know.
Yeah, like you'll probably, if you are going to be a dummy half, you might play 20 minutes a game. And how are you going to get those minutes? Whereas as a utility, you're probably going to get more minutes. But it's been the best decision ever made. Like, so much so that, like, in the next game, let's say Brandon Smith was to come back, you'd probably start Connor.
I would.
And you'd have Brendan off the bench. And we're talking about Brendan Smith, a Dally M hooker.
And, like, can you imagine, like to think that Connor Watson's arrived at the Roosters, and I've personally always thought Connor's best position is lock, but Radley was there at that point. To think that Radley isn't even playing 13 anymore and Connor Watson's the 9 and killing it there. Yeah. It's crazy how it's all played
80
out.
minutes too.
Doesn't he have a very unique skill set, Connor Watson? Like, he started games for the Knights at fullback. And he's now, like, you know, there's a few out there who can obviously do that, or plenty, I should say, that can do, like, the lock hooker combination and swap between those two. But then his ability to slot in at 5'8" easily as well, and doing all these at such a high notch, very unique.
Well, this is how unique he is. Literally hadn't played Origin, and everyone game 2 was like, oh, thank God we got Connor Watson on the bench.
Yeah.
Like, everyone was like, man, this changes everything. Like, genuinely, it changes our rotation. It changes, like, we've got every position covered. Like, that's how unique of a player he is, that, like, he hadn't played Origin, and he'd only had, like, he'd always had good years before, but not Origin level. He had 1 year where he was playing good enough to be selected, and all of New South Wales were like, yes, thank God.
It's also coming off a season that he didn't play at all.
It's just because
he
you
started
like,
in reserve grade too.
With Watson, let's say he's off your bench, you just can breathe easy on, all right, if there's an injury anywhere in this team, Con can fix it. And I don't mean Connor's going to slot in on the wing or centre or fullback, but, you know, a centre can go to fullback or whatever. Yep. Connor can slot in at centre. A back row can go to centre. Like, he can do... Having him there just allows a coach so much freedom.
And he's also... He's not just going to come on and be okay. He's actually going to come on and play pretty well.
And, like, you think about, like, it feels like an age ago, but remember when he got like a player of whatever of the Nines tournament for the Roosters a couple of years ago?
Oh, that feels like forever ago.
Like forever ago. Yeah,
wow. But yeah, he was phenomenal. And what I love about having him at 9 is that, like, it almost forces them to play up tempo.
Yeah.
Because once he gets out, Robbo's sitting in the coach's box going, you better, like, once he gets out, you better support him, because then obviously you're getting pizzled in the video sesh.
I think it was the second try that Teddy scored where he got it back inside off Connor, and you just saw the offload came from Manu and they got it to Connor. And you just saw the Manly, like, when Manly off 2 offloads and Connor had the ball with a little bit of just went off. Fuck, what are we going to do here?
I thought Kiri was better. I thought he was taking the line on this game. There was actually a couple of times where he dummied and just hooked it. And I haven't seen that from Kiri in a very long time. And the good thing is he's come out of the game unscathed. So heading into next week, like, he might be more confident enough to do that, because it's been quite a while since we've seen, like, that. That literally was what Kiri was good at, was attacking the ball at tempo, at high speed, giving defences zero time to think about their decisions. And, you know, who knows? It might be just enough confidence to see him run the ball a little bit more.
Especially when you got Angus Crichton on your left hip holding up defenders. That gap's going to pop up for you time to time. Yeah, Show and go, baby.
Absolutely. Sandon Smith did his job. Great try. Don't know what the great DCE was thinking there. Just like, I don't know what he was thinking.
I loved the one that stood out for me was just the goal kicking, again, coming back to it, but of Suoliti. Remember... Even last year, I feel the Roosters really struggled for a backup goal kicker, or even a frontliner for that matter, and it's cost them some big games, or not necessarily big games, but a lot of games in recent seasons. Sammy Walker was striking them superbly before his injury, and it was like, all right, where do we turn to now? But Suoli, he smokes them. Gee, hits a crisp ball.
Hits it so well.
That, again, they got home comfortably on the weekend. It was all right, but you know, it could be the difference this weekend.
Wouldn't the Wallabies be excited watching that? Even from that aspect as well. Enormous.
We'll speak of the Wallabies later. Nearly bloody got a win. Mad dogs. Was going to say, little critique. The 2 errors from Satili. He has to get them out of his game. It honestly, like, obviously they ended up winning really well, but his second error, like, Manly got momentum off that. I think they scored. And then it was looking like, oh shit, like, there could be a little bit of a comeback going on here. And obviously Roosters squashed it. But he has to, like, unforced errors, they just can't happen in finals footy.
Yeah. He's had to get that out of his game for a few years now, realistically. I cannot wait to see what Serraldo does with him. I think that'll be the first conversation he has
Yeah,
with him.
I think I've got. Funnily enough, I've got faith that Serraldo actually will get that out of his game.
I'm so confident he will. Yeah.
So really good win from the Roosters. It's exactly what they needed. Such an exciting game. Can't wait to see him this week. Now on to Manly. Ella, I'm going to come straight to you.
Not good. I agree with what you said at the start. It was a bit of an arm wrestle, and I was like, oh, we're sticking into this. I was like, we've actually started better than the Bulldogs game, in my opinion. And then it just all fell apart. I think we made like 32 missed tackles and like 15 errors. It's just like things you can't be doing in finals footy. It was very, very disappointing. Way too many errors, way too many missed tackles.
Well, you ended the game with 63% completion rate.
Yes,
and,
that too.
And granted, like I know they were throwing the ball around a bit at the end, but you can't be going into finals footy with 63% completion rate.
Well, they came out of the blocks, as sort of Ella said. First 10, 15 minutes, their line speed in defence, their contact was like, oh my God, they are so on here. And then, as she said, it just went downhill.
I mean, it's one of those things where, like, it was one of those games, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to the Manly team, but unfortunately, sometimes a roster is literally just better than your roster. And are they 40 to 16 better? Probably not. Are they 30 to 16 better just on paper? Like, I think so.
I thought the big thing the Roosters did really well, I think they combated Manly's biggest strength, and that is just their early shifts of the ball. If teams are lazy defensively on the edges, or it's like they don't expect it or whatever, Manly makes so many metres out of yardage just going side to side. So I was like, not only do they make metres off it, but they can get you. And because they've got so much speed on the edges, they turn into line breaks, they turn into long range tries. They're unbelievable at it, and I think it's their biggest strength. The Roosters, not only that were they winning the middle, but they just got up 1 to 13 across the field, got up, they worked, they got across together, and Manly didn't make any of those meters, and they kind of went, oh, where to now?
Yeah. It was just, and there were like you saw once or twice where they could land on Keary or Sandon. But what I felt like the edge back rowers did really well is like even if they landed on them, they wrestled really well. They made it a real point of like, can we turn them east, rather than being north-south, can we turn them east-west so the play of the ball is slow? At the very least, let's win the wrestle. I agree with you, mate. I think they did a really good job of not necessarily, because like they didn't really jam in that much. But what they made sure they did was like kept moving from the inside. You go back to some of the other games. I just remember specifically because I was watching closely. But against the Broncos, like when the Manly would come out of their end, like the Broncos players would be isolated out there. So if they missed or just like fell off the tackle slightly, there's an extra 10 metres there. Whereas by the time the ball got out to you, Garrix and Ben Trbojevic, the Roosters did a really good job of like pretty much that the inside man was like already there. Like so even if that 3 defender missed or the centre missed or whatever, they were there to win the wrestle or win the contact. So I agree with you, Timmy. They did a real good job because like that's what Manly are so good at, where if you're beating them through the middle, they just go, sweet, all good, spin, quick play of the ball, and then we just go at you. But they just didn't really have that opportunity.
It's like the opposite to the Roosters. With the Roosters, I'm like, guys, don't get complacent. Focus on the middle. You need to win the middle. Use your power game. Manly, look, it didn't work for them in this, but Manly are like, okay, boys, use your edges. That's where your strike is. That's where your speed is, and they do it so effectively. But I said the Roosters counted it.
Yeah, and that's great defense work from Robbo. That's great defense work from Robbo because, yeah, we've seen them absolutely tear teams apart. Where you're just going far out. Like, how do you kind of stop this? Because it's spreading so much, there's always going to be spaces on the edges. So, like, although I feel like Manly could have played better, I also kind of went away from this game is like, I'm actually not too harsh on Manly. Like I didn't watch them and go, geez, Barry Crocker, like these guys haven't turned up. They've just got, like, for example, I felt the Cowboys, that's where I was quite negative on them because I felt like they did rock up Playbook quite poorly. I look at that Manly Roosters game, I'm like, what else could have they probably done? Like, I don't really see much else that they could have done.
I've got a few talking points out, but what do you make of them swapping DC and Luke Brooks? Do you think the DCE was just getting forced to do too much work, or?
I don't know. All I know is that I think that right edge was getting absolutely torn to shreds.
Yep.
And I think that they've gone, okay, Garrick and DCE is not working. So maybe we just need we need Brooks over there, or maybe they thought if we move DCE to the other end, they'll start targeting the other end. But I thought that the Manly right edge got absolutely torn to shreds.
Yeah. Which brings me to my next point. I know I've been saying, I don't know where you two sit, but this Ruben Garrick centre thing, you've got an elite winger in your team. I can't make sense of it. And I think there's been a few games over the last 18 months where he's had big attacking games with big stats and people have got all excited about it. Defensively, it's been an issue all year, and in the biggest game, it's what cost them.
Do you think the fact that they moved DCE to the other edge, that's them kind of almost saying DCE was the issue in that edge defence? Because, like, why wouldn't you move Garrick to the other edge if he's the issue?
Interesting.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know.
Because, like, why? Yeah, because if
DCE's obviously got his troubles, but for me, I think it's been very evident that Garrick defensively has been a problem there for quite some time.
Yeah, see, I was willing to give Garrick a chance at centre, and I think the problem with Garrick is that every 3 games he has a blinder at centre, and you go, I can see what they see. However, after the game on the weekend, I tend to agree. I think you've got an elite winger, one of the, like, bang for buck, one of the better ones in the game on the wing. And so I think you probably need to move it on the wing. However, I do think that the problem on that edge defence is a little bit deeper. And I think, unfortunately, DC he's always had some issues defensively.
You know, like, it even goes deeper than that for me, and I'm happy to be told I'm wrong or whatever. But, like, last year, like, DCE's always been DCE, but because he had Kohler there, he was such a good defensive centre. Like, in order to move Garrick to centre, they've moved Kohler to the other side. I just think they just disrupted so much. Not to mention, and he's done incredibly well this year, to his credit, they signed Tommy Talau, who's always been a centre. They make him a winger. They make Ruben Garrick a centre. They move Kohler to the other side. I just think it's a lot for a little.
The outside back rotation has always been bizarre to me. The whole fullback situation with Lehigh and Kohler, and, you know, that's always been strange. But I just think that, like, that right side especially, like, DC has always been a guy that relatively good in contact. You know, he can make, but reads-wise, he seems like a hard guy to be outside.
I wonder if what you're saying is correct. I wonder if Kohler was still out there, if they would have swapped the centres instead of the halves.
Yeah, and they didn't want to put Ben Travojevic over there as a rookie to
maybe
get
that could have
torched,
been
maybe.
It's a very interesting conversation, boys, because I'm saying, like, you watch that game, poor old Rubes, he had a Barry, like, shocker of a game.
I love him as a player. I actually do.
So do I, yeah.
Well, I think we all love him. And I'm with you, Guru. Like, even from the start of the season, I've said, no, I think he's not an out-and-out winger. He can clearly play centre at a high notch, but I think his best foot is at centre. As you said, Guru, Talau come in, it just sort of made sense.
His best foot is at wing, sorry?
At wing, yes, for sure. I've always thought it. And he's done a good job this year at centre whilst having some defensive issues. I think he's, you know, one of the leading try causers at centre in the NRL. But we speak timelessly about DC's defensive issues, not in contact, but like with Reeds and how hard he jams on the back rower. I'd like to go back and look at all those individual try causes and go, all right, how many of these don't happen if DCE holds out a little bit more, slides and gives him a bit more support? And look, maybe it could still be a lot of them Ruben's fault, but it's a very good point you make. How much of it is DC and how much of it is Ruben? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I agree. DC doesn't make life easy for him, but I think that there's just been a lot of times this year where I think take away DCE, Garrick's made very poor decisions. What do you reckon, Ellie? You watch him every week.
I am begging for Ruben to be put back onto the wing because I think those games where he has excelled heaps, it's more his attack that's kind of overshadowed anything. Like, it's not like he's having these crazy defensive games. Everyone's like, oh my God, that read was incredible. And again, with the Talau situation, I don't understand why they weren't swapped because it wasn't really working for most of the season. And you could, very, very clearly see that on Saturday, for sure.
Well, Ruben at centre, LA is just Manly, isn't it? Just flat track bullies.
It pretty much is. And I accept that now. Back in 2021, I didn't want to believe that we were flat track bullies. We were back then. But
not quite the same level of our bite back from Maddie when you have a crack at the bunnies, is it? Give it time.
And I've said it a few times, but I remember being in Vegas at the start of the year and talking to people at Manly and, talking about, where does Tommy Talau fit? And like all they kept saying was, he's not a centre anymore. He's a winger. And I just sat there and I thought, why?
Why not?
Why are we so black and white on these two?
So I'm literally watching the tries right now, guys. Yep. So the first try, Garrick made the read he had to read. Lehigh was just dropped back because I think it was it might have been 4th or 5th. So you could say maybe Lehigh, could have been up, but it definitely wasn't Garrick's fault. Second try, about to get to it now. It's on the other side of the field, which is DCE. Missing that tackle on Sandon Smith.
That was a shocker.
That was, I don't know.
God.
I just don't know what he was thinking there, to be honest.
No.
And then keep going. There's a chip chase. Here's the... Okay, here's... So the next try, this was a Barry Crocker read from Garrick. He came in on Angus Crichton, and DCE was literally already tackling him. I actually have it in my notes, like, what was Garrick thinking there? So I think in this game specifically, DCE probably wasn't the issue, which is strange. Like, why would you move him then? And this is just the tries too, actually, sorry. So maybe we should actually watch, because it's not just the tries that the issue. Like, it could be line breaks down the edge, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so at least one of the tries was out and out Garrick's poor read, but the other one, there's not much he could have done, to be honest.
Because, that's the other thing as well. Like, we have, I've been working with you for a couple of years, and we've always spoken about DCE defensively. And then when he did it, he came up with a bad play. Was it last week? Came up with a shocker that was...
He just sprinted up out of the line and left Garrick
just left him for dead, yeah. And I remember we were saying I was bad play, and I was like, I feel like he has improved. Now I'm looking back, I'm going, was it just that he had Kohler on that edge?
And Kohler is such a good defender, and he's fast enough to get out.
Helped him out so much and covered so much and if so, I cannot believe they moved him to the left.
Why move?
Not to mention Ruben Garrick, where does he play his best footy? Not only wing, left wing.
Yeah.
I tell you what is surprising is, regardless of who fault it is or whatever, I think it's probably a mixture of both.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
The crazy thing is though, is surely Seabold knows DC defending outside him. You need the best defensive centre you can possibly find. So the Kohler move seems bizarre.
You add into it there for Garrick, like he's got Lehigh Hopewadi, who's 18, 19 or something, very inexperienced. DC hard to defend on the inside, Hopewadi is the outside.
Who actually did have some poor reads last week too, if you recall correctly. So it's almost just a mixture.
There's a bit going on.
There's a bit going on that right side that needs... You know what? It reminds me a little bit of that Sharks edge, if I'm being honest.
But it just... When you put all that together, a lot of what we're talking about is just decisions that Manly have made that I think they've just made life harder for themselves. I'd love to hear what their upside was that they there was obviously reason behind it. They haven't just done it for no apparent reason.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear the reason and hear Seabold explain it and how they thought it was going to play out and everything. Because for me, I think it's been very evident for a long time that right edge has been in trouble.
Well, it's interesting. I would love to know what the Sharks did to fix it, because obviously the Sharks have fixed it. And so what did they do to fix it, and also what do Manly think? Because I agree with you, and it goes even with the right edge. There's always been a bit of issues there, but just the whole fullback situation with Lehigh and Kohler, that whole...
The Sharks last year...
Yeah, remember when the Sharks left edge was really poor?
Yeah, it was just a change in personnel. Moylan dropped out. Teague Wilton got injured, but he was having some serious defensive troubles. He's been way better this year, to his credit.
But even when they brought people in, it still was a bit iffy last year. It's been completely fixed this year.
Yeah, I remember when it first happened, it was Wade Graham who came in, who'd been playing limited minutes off bench all year, and he was rock solid. He turned the whole edge.
Yeah, but didn't he get injured towards the end though that year? Wade, I'm pretty sure. So he came in, it got a little bit better, then it went poor again, and then it went obviously well again.
I think Wade did get injured towards the back.
And then they were trying to fix
or someone out there.
Calhoun or something like that. Yeah. And so then didn't Teague come into for a period and it was wasn't working fully. Obviously it's sweet now.
I think this year, or last year.
No, Graham played out the end of last season.
Yeah, because Teague got injured.
Yeah.
Because Teague got injured, and they tried to put Calhoun there. Then they moved Wade out there.
And Wade sorted it.
Yeah.
So Wade sorted, but Wade's obviously not there this year.
Yes.
So it's not just personnel. There's clearly something that's been fixed on that edge.
Well, and Moylan gone obviously too. Yeah.
And so we've also got Trindle there now on their left edge.
Yeah, you got
and they've got Wilton.
And you got Itero as well. So you Metallica. So the whole edge changed.
The whole edge has changed,
Mulatalo's literally the only one that started.
That's not it. And so with Manly, there's a bit of... The outside back situation has always been a bit strange for me.
Yep.
Because I know last week people pushed back on it a bit when we were talking about how great the fact that Kohler scored, and we were talking about how he dropped out of the team. First of all, when we say dropped out of the team, we mean the starting side, but they were he didn't drop out of the side, he was on the bench. But I guess what's strange is even a guy like Kohler was behind Tommy Talau, Lehigh. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing as well, that whilst I'm being critical, you've unearthed Lehigh, you got Tommy Talau playing the footy that we all knew he was capable of playing, not sure if he was ever going to. So they've done a lot of positive things as well. I don't get the musical chairs situation.
Because if Saab wasn't injured, there's a very good chance that Cooler doesn't start last week. He's on the bench.
Probably wouldn't have. Based on the team
definitely
selection.
doesn't.
Yeah, it's interesting. In regards to as I said, in regards to the performance, I do think that their forward pack got found out a little bit, Manly. And what I mean by found out, I mean just that extra gear. I just don't know if they've got it. And that's been a question we've had with Manly all year. Is like, yes, this forward pack, some days it's incredible, some days it's not so good. I think that in this finals game and also last finals game as well, that extra gear they need to have, I'm just a bit unsure whether this current forward pack, I think they need to recruit someone to be able to take that next step, Manly forward pack.
I completely agree with you. And I think as well, next, I know he's not going to be a huge loss, but, Carl Lawton's leaving, so that left edge spot sort of open. I'm hoping that Burbo's able to take his game to that next level. I thought that'd be this year for Burbo, if I'm honest, and he was a little bit hit and miss throughout the season.
Started really well, but then he
started incredibly well, but then he faded.
Thought he debutised quite well at centre when he went on for Cola. Yeah,
I agree, but they need Burbo to really take that step next year.
I think they need. So Paseka has been incredible this year. I think he just needs a partner in crime. And obviously Nathan Brown was outstanding off the bench. I just think that they need probably an extra front rower not a big bopper, just a dog that can get through the work in the middle with Paseka. Because I thought Paseka had easily the best year of his career.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you reckon, Ella? Do you agree, disagree?
100% agree that we're looking for another prop. Unfortunately, we're so stuck with our cap because it's so top heavy that it's we're a bit limited on who we can side. Caleb Navale, who debuted during that origin period this year, I really like him. He's 21. Would love to see him get more of a go next year. Love Ethan Bullimore as well, but he hasn't been re-signed for next year yet. So I'm hoping we re-sign him because I thought he's been great.
Are you surprised by that? I'm surprised by that. So
surprised. Literally so surprised. There's been no chat of him getting re-signed yet, but I really hope it happens because I'd be really upset to miss.
There's a lot of clubs that could use a guy like Bullimore.
Bloody oath, yeah.
He's explosive through the middle.
He's quick as well.
Yeah.
Fast feet.
That's really surprising. Manly, maybe it's a price thing. Maybe they can't afford him.
I assume he's not on big money anyways, but I'm just hoping it's something that they'll we'll sort out at the end of the season. But every week that goes by that we haven't heard any more news, I'm like, not good.
Not looking good.
I'll tell you the other big breaking news that no one will probably care about outside of me and Ella, but one of my favourite CBAs years ago, Matty Parcell.
That's the one I told you about, eh?
Please. He's returning from the Super League. He's coming back to Australia. I think he's about 30, 31 now. I think he'd be a very
Has
good
he signed
sign.
anywhere?
No, he hasn't signed anywhere yet. But I reckon he'd be very good. Maybe you could have a 12th hooker.
Yeah, we need another hooker, actually, the Raids.
I reckon he'd be a handy little get for someone out there.
Yeah, okay. In regards to other performances, who else stood out for you boys?
I will say, look, he wasn't going to overturn the 24-point deficit or whatever it was, but Tommy Turbo was playing with one leg and one shoulder, and he just wasn't the same. Credit to him.
Still ran for 207 metres.
Tough as nails, but I'm just so shattered we didn't get because he strung together a decent and a good amount of games this year in the NRL. Had a few injuries here and there, but a pretty good chunk. But just what could have been if he went into the finals 100% fit. It just changes this entire outfit.
Yeah.
As I said, it probably doesn't change the result, but God, it would have had a big influence on the game, just to state the obvious.
And Manly fans, I will say this absolutely. I did think they got pretty dudded with a couple of calls. I did think that it seemed like the Roosters were pretty much allowed to lay on to a degree, and I thought Manly were getting pinged. I don't think it would have changed the result at all, but in regards to if you were to judge who got the shorter end of the stick, I think Manly did, especially that Alloy A1 where he played the ball, and it was it Satili's foot or something? One of the Roosters' foot hit it. I thought that was such a tough call.
Yeah,
such a tough call. So I don't think it would have changed the result, but I did think that a lot of the 50-50 calls, it seemed like it went the Roosters' way. I don't think it was intentional at all, but I do think that some games you get the calls, some games you don't. Manly definitely didn't get the calls in this game, in my opinion.
Another tough call, I thought. The statistician giving Kohler the one missed tackle.
What?
Brutal.
That is
Fucking
outrageous.
brutal.
Holy.
Oh, that's so sad.
Oh.
0 made, 1 missed.
You sure it's not bloody Timmy? He hates centres missing tackles.
Oh, just got to be better.
Be better. So I don't think it obviously it didn't make them lose the game, blah, blah, blah. They just got some tough calls. You know, what did make this? It was the 32 missed tackles. It was the 23 ineffective tackles. It was the 14 errors. You know, that's what really hurt the Manly Seagulls. And I do think, although a satisfactory year for the Manly Seagulls, I'd even say you could probably give them a B. A little bit of a concern that both finals games, they didn't play well. I know they got the job done against the Bulldogs, but a concern that they had pretty much, put it this way, as a club, you probably want to have your best games in finals footy, even if you lose those final games. I guess a little bit of a concern for Manly that they had their best games in season. Whereas, like, for example, you look at the Bulldogs, they didn't necessarily play their best game in finals footy, but they played a pretty bloody good one week 1 of the finals. And really the difference was the rosters with, the superstars in Manly. But, Ella, what's your thoughts on that? Is that in regards to where do you land Manly season as a diehard?
Yeah, all I wanted to do was make week 2, so 100% it's a pass mark. Agree that playing poorly in both finals games wasn't a great way to end the season at all. I think it was just reflective of how inconsistent we have been all year. Like, our highs have been so high, and then we lose to the Tigers, as Hammy's like to remind me every single week since that happened. So like I was saying before, we just have to build on it for next season. Like, all I want to do is make finals this year, having new halves combo, having a few new forwards off the bench, but we just have to build on it for next year, make finals again. If we miss out, it'd kind of make this season feel a little bit redundant because our squad's not changing that much. Like, Carl Lawton's pretty much our only loss this year, obviously pending Bully's re-signing. Just have to build on it for next year for sure.
And who do you think should be the backup fullback, Cooler or Lehigh?
I am probably leaning more towards Team Lehigh at the moment. Okay. He's just like, I was blown away with this season. I was talking to Seabold at a function we had a couple of months ago, and he was like, I had zero attention to debut him this year. Like, I wanted him around first grade because it probably was more of a next year kind of thing, and then injuries happened, the opportunity opened, and now, like, you literally cannot drop him. He's so special. Yep. But yeah, I agree. It was so strange with the Tolu and him musical chairs around fullback. I could not understand the reasoning why you would play one of them there when the option changed.
Yeah.
Towards the end. It was weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know who'd be my second choice fullback? Fucking Garrick. If it wasn't for Jersey Gate the other day, he gets you into a top 8 finish at fullback.
Yeah, and he was on one leg too half that time.
Yeah. He played with a broken back, didn't he?
Yeah.
That year, I think.
He did, yeah.
I got to say, even in this game, Lehigh made multiple runs where they were under the pump and he would scoot and somehow, I don't know how he broke the line. Like, he would just like squeeze through it on the, like, running sideways almost. He had a bit of a Barry Crocker against the Bulldogs, but I thought that he showed moments of brilliance against the Roosters, which is friggin' hard to do.
Yeah,
absolutely. Really hard to do. Alrighty, the RLPA have released their dream team, so I'm pretty sure this is players voting for other players. If I
believe so,
yeah. At fullback, Dylan Edwards. On the wings, Lomax To'o. At 6, Luai. In the centres, Farmworth, Critter. Hughes at 7. Crichton on one edge, Katoa on the other. Yo at 13, Barnett and Adenfnor Blake in the front row, and Grant at 9. And for impact player, Terrell May. I think that's a pretty bloody solid squad. I can't push back too hard on literally any of the players. If I were to put forward my couple that I may change, actually, you know what? Why would I do that? Because we've got to do our team of the. Actually, that might change though by the end of the year because we include finals footy. All right, what I may change is Tarpane. I may put him in the front row over either Barnett or Adenfnor Blake. Maybe Adenfnor Blake, and I would probably have Dearden over Luai. However, not going to push back that hard on the other ones.
Yeah, I can understand where you're coming from there. Shout out to the boys that went back to back. The two centres, Farmworth and Critter, back-to-back years. A very, very good knock there. Brian To'o with another one as well. Mate, I just want to give Jerome Luai a shout-out.
Yeah.
There he is again.
Yeah. Honestly, he's he is almost like the kryptonite to haters. Because, like, he was so polarizing, so disliked, and he just keeps going. Like, think about how many times people have said, oh, you're just on Cleary's coattails. That's all you are. And here he is once again.
Again, yeah, unreal.
Timmy?
Yeah, very hard to argue with any of it.
Really.
Like as you said, you can nitpick a couple, and you probably the ones you touched on, like maybe did and over Luai sort of came to mind. But even then, no pushback on Luai.
Neither.
Maybe the Barnett second prop spot, but again, you're sort of clutching at straws, sort of going between players. The one that I'd probably have, maybe James Tedesco over Dylan Edwards. I think I had Edwards ahead for a lot of the season, and this would be just NRL as well, hey? Like, it wouldn't be Origin.
I think so. It's voted, so, you don't know what they're voting on. They could be just voting on, like, who they think.
If we're just talking NRL season, I would have had Edwards ahead of Teddy, but just the back end of the season, Edwards, because of injury concerns, missed games. Teddy's just gone. When they needed him, he's gone huge. So I'd probably have Teddy at fullback, but yeah, it's a good team.
If Teddy would have got it, would have made him the player with the most selections ever.
No way.
RLPA, yeah, would have made it 5.
Wow.
So pretty impressive.
Yep.
Mate, the other one I want to give a little shout out to is Zach Lomax. I know we're all used to it now, but at the start of the season, if you would have made this call that one he'd be there on the wing, like he trained at fullback in the preseason.
Yeah.
Centre was his best spot, and he didn't want to play wing. Now he's in there, incredible.
Even take away all of that, for him to be one of the best in the competition is crazy. Like he was 5 years into his NRL career, and we're all sitting there going, he's got a lot of potential. And I agree with you, mate. Massive shout out to Lomax. Congratulations. I love the Terrell May on the bench. That's actually, it's not surprising for me in the sense that I don't think he deserves it. I just thought that he was a player that a lot of people may not actually appreciate how much impact he has.
Yep.
And I love the fact that the players clearly know how much impact. Like, think about, because like Terrell May is the kind of guy that a lot of the wider audience wouldn't know that well as a player, like kind of to a degree. But for players too, they must do a lot of video of when he does come on and trying to lock up that offload and all that kind of stuff.
Well, they're all essentially household names in that starting 13. Terrell May, at this stage of his career, isn't to the casual observer.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think it's fair to say.
I think as well, to Terrell May's credit, like when you're talking about, impact coming off the bench, he sits on a bench with Spencer Leniu.
I know. Crazy. Great stuff. Can't push back on much. Only play, but okay. So they've even got the players like who made the shortlist for impact off the bench. Nathan Brown and Curran were also selected, which is a pretty good shout. In regards to wingers, it was out of Lomax, Kiraz, Warbrick, and Toto. The dream team for the hookers was Coruscant, Reece Robson, and Grant. Halves, Hughes, Cleary, and DCE. And I think that's it.
You know what? I could understand if you went a Robson over Grant this year.
Yeah, fair. To be honest, I don't know if I want to go there. Okay, it might be too extreme, but Blake Brayley would nearly be one of my best of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe I'm being unfair because Grant has just set such a high bar for himself and he just hasn't probably reached those absolute heights this year. But, when I saw it, I just went, Harry Grant at 9, of course. But I think the more you think about it, the more I think that one could be up for contention.
I think we're getting what I mentioned with like Tedesco effect with Harry Grant, where it's just like when he's a smidge off his best. I think in the NRL, hooker and Harry Grant is the biggest gap from the first best player to the second best player. So, like,
funnily enough, similar to what Cameron Smith used to do with the Storm.
Yes,
as in like the gap was
the gap was huge.
Yeah, it's a great point. Yeah, we're probably being desensitized to it because he hasn't been poor at it by any stretch. I do think Blake Brayley deserves a shout though. I think he's been bloody good this year. Alrighty, time to preview Friday night's game. Brought to you by Sportsbet. We'll give a tip, we'll give a try scorer, and we'll give a margin. Okay, so game 1, Storm v Roosters, Amy Park. The line is 9.5, correct?
9.5.
Okay, the line is 9.5. All right. I'm going to go Storm Roosters, and my anytime try scorer is going to be Katoa.
I'm 9.5. I'm going to go Storm. And my anytime try scorer, I'll go a little bit left field. I'll go Sean Bloor.
Ooh, okay.
Jeez. I'm going to go... You went Storm.
Yep.
Storm win, Roosters to cover the line. I had not thought about try scorer. Let's go with... sorry, boys, I was not prepped for this. Sort of come on quick. I'm just going to go with Ellie Katoa.
No, you can't go the same as me.
I wasn't even listening to it. I was trying to think of a try scorer. Okay, I'll go with...
Don't say Sean Bloor.
Definitely not saying Sean Bloor. I'm not that
Just
dumb.
go Harry Green or something.
Joseph Suaalii.
Suaalii? Okay.
Back to back.
I like that.
Saturday night game, Panthers v Sharks, and the line is... Do you guys know what the line is?
Yeah, line is 11.5.
I'm going Panthers, and anytime try scorer, I am going to go Nathan Cleary.
Oh, damn you.
I will go Panthers, and my try scorer, I will go Scotty Sorensen or Luke Garner, whoever's playing there.
Ooh. I will go Panthers, and then Liam Martin on the right will be going at Trindle on the left. I'll go Isaac Tungo.
Alrighty, that is our tips. Face the Music, brought to you by Sportsbet, our friends. Now, in regards to the games, look, the Storm, it's just all about their spine. It's just all about finding ways. I think that if the Storm try to go through them with their forward pack, they might come into quite a bit of resistance. But we do know the Storm are really good at shifting and hitting edges and just staying down those corridors. We know the Roosters' edges in regards to Keary and Smith, not the biggest halves pairing. If the Storm can move the big Roosters forward pack, keep ball in play as long as possible, that's a good thing for the Storm, because then that's when their spine just hits into overdrive. I do think that around the 20-minute mark, if they've kept the ball in play as much and a high completion rate, you could see some of these big boppers from the Roosters fatiguing, and that's where Harry Grant, Hughes and Munster just tear them apart. If I'm the Roosters, it is all power, just trying to drag the Storm into an absolute dogfight, super aggressive, crazy line speed, and basically, I honestly would barely even bother spreading. Unless I'm in their 20, I would barely even bother spreading the ball, because I think that the Melbourne Storm don't want to play, even defend in the middle. I don't think that they want that with the Roosters, with how big their outside backs are, with how big their forward pack is. So if I'm the Roosters, I'd be trying to make it a slowish, stoppish, startish game. I would want the ball to be kind of out of play a lot and just big, aggressive through the middle.
I agree completely with ball in play. I think that favours Melbourne massively. And my theme for the weekend, boys, you give good coaches 2 weeks to prepare. You're going to see good things. I'm pretty confident Melbourne win this one.
If in an alternate universe the Roosters had the week off, I'd be really tempted to tip the Roosters for an upset. I know odds are different, etc., but I just think the week off for the Storm will be the difference here. That being said, I don't know how much that game on the weekend would have taken out of the Roosters. They did it pretty comfortably. I think, as you said, Kempy, I think the Storm just turned into a bit of a war of attrition. They've got points in them through their superstar spine, and there are so many key players in attack, but it's the man we just spoke about. It's Harry Grant. He's so dynamic out of dummy half that if they complete high, kick well, do all those little things right, which is the Melbourne Storm, they do, Harry Grant will find points in and around the ruck, and he'll find space, and he will capitalise on it. As you said, it's a pretty big Roosters forward pack. He'll get his chances to run. Complete high will be the big one for the Storm. For the Roosters, I think we've spoken about it all show. We've spoken about it all year, mate. It's playing through the middle. It's a power game through the middle. They get... I chatted about during the Roosters review, but they get into this sort of complacent mindset of play wide early, someone will come up with a big play, we'll be okay. That works against 14, 15 teams in the competition. Against the Panthers and the Storm, it doesn't. And they've been found out, and they have a poor record against them in recent years. The Roosters stick to their guns, play through the middle, play for the middle, and they can win the game.
Yeah, I agree. Just super... as I said, I wouldn't even be thinking about spreading it unless I'm in their 20, if I'm the Roosters. I would just be... Everything would be through the middle. Everything.
I love what they did. I mean, they do it often, but as we said, just bring in Manu and Suaalii underneath. Yeah. And it's what Penrith do. Penrith pepper the middle. That doesn't mean they don't sort of go to their edges, but when they do, it's turning back rolls or centres, dropping them under. Do that with Suaalii and Manu.
That's what I mean.
At the start of the Roosters preview, I was I was surprised that you went straight to Joey Manu, who, aside from sort of the catch at the end for the Dom Young try assist, there were no big moments from Joey Manu, but every time he crabbed back in field, he'd just break tackles and offload, and it just created that bit of second phase play, a bit of uncertainty around the ruck, but it was all through the middle, bringing back.
That's what I meant with the Joey Manu, is like when he's doing that, when you see him crabbing across the field 3 or 4 times a game, that shows me the Roosters' game plan is on point. Like they're trying to break you through the middle with offloads and aggressiveness, really.
Yeah, they scored a really good try down the left edge. Tedesco for Tupu down the short side. Joey Manu came from the other side of the field, and he was on the inside of Kieran. It's like, where do you reckon their eyes were?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like when Joey Manu is roaming like that, I know the Roosters are on. Whereas if Manu was in on that inside, they might be able to release, that marker might be able to release.
It gave them an extra half an inch, and they took it and they scored.
Absolutely. So I cannot wait for this game. It's going to be absolutely brutal. And I just think that they should be turning under. We know that the Storm forward pack is fit, but how strong are they in contact compared to Suoliti, Manu, the big boys? We'll see. And then you got Spencer Linu coming on, or Terrell May. Offloads as well, I think, could really help the Roosters.
I think offloads are going to be massive.
Offloads have always been a bit of a kryptonite for the Storm because they've got such set defensive structures. The Raiders used to be really good at that. They'd just go to Melbourne and just upset that with a big forward pack. So, honestly, he probably won't. But if I'm Robbo, I actually probably would be watching a lot of the Raiders games in Melbourne to see what they did, because the Raiders are one of the rare teams that go to Melbourne and beat them in big games too.
Yeah.
I think the big thing for the Roosters too, and it's so simple, but they just haven't been up. You got to play the 80.
Yeah.
You play 70 against this Melbourne Storm side, you can get done by 20.
You could play 70 and they'll score 3 tries in 10 minutes, the Storm, because they're so electric through the middle.
Wait, and you know what the Melbourne Storm are like? They'll wait for that 10-minute period.
Yeah. Okay, on for the Panthers Sharkies. Look, it's the Panthers, we already know what they need to do, exactly what they did against the Roosters, exactly what they've been doing for the last 5 years. It's just attrition through the middle. We know that the Sharkies forward pack, it's not the craziest on paper. It's been really gutsy. It's been really tough for the last few weeks. In regards to Sharkies, first of all, they have just got to be in for an absolute battle. Defense, everything in defense needs to be like your life depends on it. And I think that they're just going to have to risk it. I don't think, if they go in there thinking they're going to be out grinding the Penrith Panthers, it's just not going to happen, in my opinion. If they go in there thinking, you know what, let's just fucking go all guns blazing and risk some, obviously get through our sets and be smart coming out of O&N, but any time but we have an opportunity to attack, whether it's from the halfway line onwards, we just need to risk it. Chip chases, whatever you want. I say this respectfully, but I just can't see this Sharky side beating them unless something special happens. And
you know what? I say this respectfully as well. If the Sharkies win this, I just can't. That has to be their grand final. I don't know how you could possibly get up from that game again. So, I think Penrith went and win well, and I think, mate, the big key when you're taking on Melbourne and Penrith, you've got to try and make them uncomfortable. As you said, you got to throw the ball around, you got to create offloads. I think the Sharkies are at very long odds here.
Agreed. The one and only thing I think going in their favour for this one, it's just they're going in with nothing to lose.
Yeah, no pressure.
If they lose, they've had a great year. No one's expecting them to win. It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Penrith, the complete opposite. They've been there and done it. They won't be nervous. They'll be fine. But they've got everything to lose still. It's I think, as you said, it's rinse and repeat for Penrith. The same thing they do every week. Complete high, getting the arm wrestle. They'll be too good. The Sharks, I go back to this team often when it comes to Parramatta and the Penrith shapes that have rattled them. And it's just ball movement around the ruck. And it's having shape around the ruck because the Panthers pack is far superior to the Sharks. It is what it is. They are to every pack in the competition, realistically. If they just get into a one-off, even just running in pairs through the middle like you do in most NRL games, Penrith are going to destroy you. You get peppered. They've got 2 really good line running and hard line running edge back rows, the Sharks. Just throw shape. Parramatta, when they had success, and they have had a lot of success around them, but I go back to 2022 with Papali'i and Sean Lane, who had career years those years. It was just going side to side, not out of the middle corridor, but just going edge back rower, and a bit of shape, because when Mitch Kenny fires up off the line, they have this line speed. If you go tip on, it just rattles them a little bit, like Guru sort of said. I think shape around the ruck is absolutely key.
Yeah. Mate, I totally agree. And that's what I mean. It has to be throw inhibitions away of like, as a forward, you're sitting there going, oh, I don't really like passing and tipping on makes me nervous. And what if I make an error? It just has to be, you know what? I'm just going to try and be the best version of myself. I'm going to hit out the back. I'm going to tip on. I'm always going to be ready for that ball. You know, rather than take the safe option all the time. Obviously, there are times when you have to take the safe option. If they've jammed on you, if they've landed on you, don't throw the ball. However, in a season game where you're like, oh, I'm not confident throwing this pass out the back because I'm a forward, you've got to have ball movement around the ruck. You've got to make it so that line speed from the Penrith Panthers, every time you tip on, you might get jammed the first 2 times, but the third time is where they slip off you and it's a quick play the ball. Yeah. If you just go, you know what, we're going to go in there and we're going to be really tough and really gritty and we're going to hang in the grind with them, they'll just go, This is beautiful. This is beautiful. So, yeah, heaps of ball playing around the ruck. I'd be giving heaps of responsibility to Brayley, just barking at my troops. My front rowers in pairs. Will Kennedy, I want you sniffing around the ruck every single run. If I see, put it this way, if they're coming out of their own end and I see Kennedy fucking out the back out on the edges, what are you doing out there? We're not going to be getting the ball out there. Get around the ruck, little tip-ons out the back, just give options, just so that the Panthers' line speed hesitates a little bit so that they can't just all scream in and jam on and who's got the ball.
And the key man will be Cameron McInnes.
Yeah.
With that ball playing in around the ruck, it'll be his job to move side to side. Opportunities, if they complete high and they do that and they rattle a bit around the ruck, they'll come. And the 2 opportunities there are they've got their strike centres in Jesse Ramian and Kale Iro. They've got great ball players in Trindle and Nico Hines, feeding them. Isaac Tungo, Paul Alamotti at centre. Well, both defensively quite poor in my opinion.
There's an argument to be made that Sharks have better backs than the Penrith Panthers outside of Toto.
Yeah. They're in particular the centres. So it's the opportunities will come. We know with Penrith, if you get 3 opportunities in this game, you need to nail every one of them. Yeah. Heaps easier said than done, but it's just the reality.
Yeah, because in the forward pack, I think it's quite clear Penrith are the better side. But in the backs, it's obviously Dylan Edwards is better and Toto's better. But outside of that, you've got Mulatalo, you've got Ramian, Iro. You actually, there is an area on the field that you, on paper, are better at. But it's just got to be super slick through the middle, super slick. Your work off the ball is never done. Always feet moving, always support plays, always there for the quick play of the ball. Even I think Brayley tight ball playing around the ruck, that can negate. Cameron Smith used to be the master at it. Teams would go, all right, we're going to have heaps of line speed around the Storm. And you would just see Smithy go, all right, sweet. What I'll do is I'll just keep getting out and playing with the markers. Because how do you get line speed when you can't? You can't come in behind the markers. Mm-hmm. You've got to give them a little bit of space as a defender, and that's when you can get one-on-one tackles. Because if I'm Cameron Smith and I hold up that A defender, then it has to be a one-on-one. If you're hitting an unders line, it has to be a one-on-one tackle because there's an A defender there. But it's a huge even if the Penrith Panthers play poorly and it becomes a tight contest, I still just think they'll find a way to win it. Yep. If I'm being honest. But I hope the Sharkies just put up a good front. I really do, because the other problem for the Sharkies is they may be scarred from the massive flogging they took from early this year.
Yeah. At the same time, Timmy makes a good point. How nice is this week going to be for the Sharkies? No pressure, no expectations. Have a throw at the stump, see what happens.
See what happens. And also, 80 minutes, something great could happen.
Yep.
Who knows? Who knows? They're men just like us. Alrighty. That's Face the Music, brought to you by our friends over at Sportsbet. Now, don't forget, guys, Grumpy Coffee. Go to grumpycoffee.com.au. Are live at 6 p.m. tonight. Probably already live as we speak. Every single purchase puts you in the draw to go to the Levels Golf Day, where you play golf. You want a mate, all expenses paid. Play golf with the biggest stars in the NRL. Make sure to give Rugby League Guru a follow. Subscribe to the podcast. SC Playbook. Subscribe to the podcast. Aussie Footy Shorts next Monday, 6 p.m. Bloke and Aussie Footy Shorts collaboration. They've partnered with the show. And that's about it, I think. Anything else, boys?
Shout out to Ella. Good night.
Shout out. Thanks, Ella.
No
Appreciate
worries. Have
Legend.
fun.
There we go. As usual, we'll go and fuck ourselves. Thank you.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.